Okay, we know this. So what?
Right, and an airplane is a bad example because an airplane
No,
has
because you're
control.
using an example of an airplane
Can
flying
you
and
let me
having to
finish
pick
what I'm
up
saying?
speed.
Can you let me finish what I'm saying?
You use
An
the example
airplane
of the
is a
airplane.
bad. Are
You
there any
use
mods in
the
here? Can you
example of the
mute him
airplane
so I can finish
Relax,
what I'm
turning it
saying? Because
against
he's
you.
just
both
You're
gonna
of
keep
you.
telling me it's a
talking over
bad
me.
example now.
He's just gonna
You're
keep
moving the
talking over
goalpost.
me. He's just
You
gonna
are
keep talking.
moving the
Somebody mute
goalpost.
him. Somebody
Lyle,
mute
come
him so
on, Lyle.
I can speak. Somebody mute him so I can speak.
Okay,
The
go ahead, speak,
airplane is a
man.
bad example because the airplane has control surfaces, so it's able to adjust the direction that it's flying in. So if you're going to say that it's conserving the momentum of Earth, no, it's not, because it's adjusting the path that it's flying in. A better example is something that doesn't have control surfaces on it.
Even that is wrong, my dudes. Even if it adjusts the speed, its direction, it's still conserving the momentum.
I would like to point out that he brought up the airplane to begin with, and now he's moving the goalpost away because I made the point that the airports do not move, and as the plane is flying from one airport to another airport in the atmosphere of the Earth, which is part of the Earth's reference frame, now he's changing it and saying it's a bad example.
The airports
He's saying
don't
his
move
own
because Earth is
example
not
is a bad
rotating.
example.
The airports do not move because Earth is not rotating. Welcome to Flat Earth.
It wouldn't get up and move even if the Earth were rotating. They stay in the exact same location.
How does that make
They don't
sense?
move.
How does that make sense? If the Earth is rotating and you're in the inertial reference frame, why would the stuff below you not be moving?
Okay, hold on. I think you're not understanding the inertial reference frame. Do you know what you're speaking about, first of all?
The inertial reference frame is the frame that is not rotating.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
But if
What is the
inertial
inertial reference frame then? What is the inertial reference frame?
Wait, if the airport is 32
No,
degrees
wait, hold
east,
on. The other guy,
north,
the other
it
guy
No,
was
no, no, no.
does
laughing
not
at me,
get moved
saying that.
because I fly to.
So I guess you can just dodge questions here.
I'm gonna keep you in your ignorance so we can see where you can go yet.
I want you to tell me what an inertial reference frame is.
No, you're the seeker of the truth. You should know it, but I wanna keep going.
If you're gonna laugh at me, you should at least be able to explain what an inertial reference frame is.
We'll laugh at you later.
You don't even know what that is, and you have the audacity to laugh at me. Get out of here,
Man, fuck you, man. I fucking studied physics, man. Dude, shut the fuck up.
Rocket scientist, may I meet you down in the Flat Earth gossip room for a second?
Sure. Moyak scrambling, bro. Scrambling on this pole call pendulum. I know it's tough.
Now, your question about east to west, are you talking about when the pendulum? Are you talking about when the pendulum is moving around and now it's swinging east to west, or you're talking about where you are on the Earth's surface relative?
Listen, Moyak understands the issue with this. If you guys don't, I don't know how you don't understand what the problem is.
Well, do you answer my question?
Moyak
are you talking about your location on the Earth, or are you talking about the direction the pendulum is swinging? Can you answer the question? Are you talking about the direction the pendulum is swinging, or your position on the Earth?
I was butter and toast, homie. Listen, when you're going north-south, you get a different deviation than if you're going east-west.
So you're talking about the swinging of the pendulum, the direction the pendulum is swinging?
No, the pendulum doesn't get a different deviation. The pendulum gets the same deviation. But according to Coriolis, you should have different deviation. That's why your shit's not lining up, bro.
No, the Coriolis circling is the same for any given point on the Earth. It gets lower and lower as you get towards the equator, where it's zero at the equator.
Okay, so you're saying even if you go north-south or east-west, the Earth's rotating under you at X amount of degrees per hour, regardless of east.
Yes, and the time it takes to rotate is.
So why do snipers have Coriolis charts if it's the same amount going east-west or north-south?
I don't know if
snipers don't even account for it if they're going east-west.
Sniper charts.
Sniper charts don't account for Coriolis.
Yeah, nah, no shit, James.
They're not shooting far enough.
The 1 mile sniper
it's all about a drop, not a drop through gravity, not the Coriolis. So the There you go. There's the equation for how long it'll
Wow,
take
that's-
to rotate in completely 360 degrees, and that theta thing
hold on
there.
a
That's not a
second.
theta. That's your latitude.
Hold on, Jake. Did you say that as a glober or a flat earther?
No, I mean, I'm saying that just in general.
Are you a glober when you say
The
this? 'Cause
snipers
I've
don't
never-
take it. You know, maybe some trick shot snipers that are trying to add some extra variable in there to try and account for. But generally speaking, no, snipers don't account for Coriolis.
Wow,
It's a
that's-
common thing that Globers say that isn't true.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard that about, I don't know, 100 times.
Because we did the math of deflection on a 1,000-yard shot, which is 3/4 of a mile. The deflection is only like 4 inches, which is very small compared to all the other confounding variables.
That's the hit or a miss, though. That 4 inches could be a hit or a miss.
Over
Yeah.
1,000 miles, he said. Right?
1,000 yards.
1,000 yards. Okay.
There's other.
Yeah, but the
things
thing
that
is, at
would
1,000
affect
yards,
more
the
than
chances
4
that you're
inches.
going to land the first shot are so low. I mean, that's why you're going to send the first shot and then immediately adjust after you see where the shot goes. There's no way. I mean, unless you're the luckiest man on earth, you're not going to land that first shot within 4 inches of that target. Not at 1,000 yards.
There's a massive amount of shit that would adjust it by more than 4 inches over that range.
Oh yeah.
So how much longer are you going to pretend the Earth is flat, Jeremy? Do you know? Do you have? Is there an end in sight, or are you going to really put in the long con like chemo? Just really dedicate half a decade to it. Half a decade to it and not learn one thing and ask the same exact questions that you did 5 years ago. Are you going to do that?
How about you, Jake? Are you going to dedicate the rest of your life to trying to debunk flat Earth? Are you going to be a debunker?
I don't really try to
the
debunk
rest
flat
of your
Earth.
life?
I just come here for entertainment. I don't make any videos.
So, are you going to be a Discord entertainment junkie for the rest of your life? Is that what you're going to do?
Until something better comes along, probably.
Well, there's a lot of entertaining stuff going on right now. There are people shooting each other, looting buildings.
That's not entertaining.
There's all kinds of other shit to watch.
I mean, I watch the videos on YouTube and I read about it, but I did have the entertaining conversation with that one guy, that flat earther, who thinks that we're going to be in a civil war after the election. That was pretty interesting.
I was debating jet fuel hoaxers the other night.
Jet fuel.
I don't know how those guys are still around.
It's because morons will believe anything.
I mean, not only did they debate the jet fuel
right
hoax, they also claimed the plane is literally half the size of what is claimed, which is like, dude, you can measure the goddamn plane. There's so many airports where you have to go out on the tarmac to board the plane. You could just take out a measuring wheel and measure.
It is kind of weird, though, how they managed to fit all that fuel in the wings. Because the wings are, so flimsy.
Dude, the wings are freaking enormous, and adding fuel to the wings makes the plane stronger, not weaker.
I was going to ask
if but just the structural design is, so flimsy, though.
It's not flimsy. What are you talking about?
Tons
and
of
the
gas
fuel makes The fuel makes the wing even stronger because it span loads the wing.
I was going to ask if there's any morons in the chat right now that believe in the jet fuel hoax.
The other thing is, they think it's a lie that planes land at like 160 miles an hour. They think that they're doing like 50. That's another retarded thing because they look like they're going so slow.
Hold on, go fuck yourself, titty guy. You can go rub your titties with Sean Hufford.
So you don't think that jet fuel? Do you think jet fuel is real or not?
Oh, you don't think that? Fuck off.
Ooh, I heard his feelings.
Babs is cranky.
Yeah,
That's Babs, is it?
They didn't like me.
He's got a girl's name.
However, they haven't banned me yet, Cypher. So
Who hasn't?
the jet fuel hoaxers.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's surprising.
Yeah, I know I lasted longer there than I did on the vegan server.
Babs, do you think that you seriously think that the jet fuel is a hoax?
No, I don't. I just I was asking questions I was generally
Jacking off. You're having a bit of a jack off.
curious about.
Yeah.
But no, I don't believe in it. No.
You're jacking off. Yeah.
You wish I was jacking off. I can send you dick pics if you want, you faggot.
Oh, I told them flat out that they had created perpetual motion machine, and I would love to invest in how it worked.
Fuck
I don't believe water. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. Do you think they're the birds aren't real style for the jet fuel hoax people? What is their game? What's their
The guys I was talking to, their whole thing was that the government's hiding some magical engine technology from all of us, and that the planes can propel themselves on fucking compressed air entirely through a flight, and that's all they need.
So
let's get real. I mean, they would never suppress any technology.
Yeah, and the $30 an hour techs that take the $30 an hour techs that takes this shit apart and back together every day never figures out that the thing doesn't use any fuel, huh?
Right.
So they're true believers. They are true believers. Because I always thought it was like the first time I heard it was that Nathan Thompson guy, and I just thought he's just let's see what else stupid people will believe that I say and get his jollies from it. And that's what I think. It's just people getting their jollies from it. If I claim the Earth is flat and people believe it, that gives me my jollies, and I got to get a new one. So jet fuel hoax is the next one off the ranks.
It was. They're not as popular as they were a few months ago, but there's several firm believers in it. They got some crazy shit in their mind.
Oh yeah. Well, the original owner of the hoax, they're just getting their jollies big time from that, no doubt. Yeah, it's weird.
And how do you get your jollies, titty guy? Why don't you tell us?
Oh, you flat Earth morons are a good entertainment every now and again. So yeah, that's one way.
Us flat Earth morons. Well, if we're such idiots, why do you watch us every day? Do you have nothing better to do with your life?
Yeah,
Are you unemployed?
I said, no, I work for. It's not the middle of the day here right now because Earth's a sphere. And
well, I doubt you're employed because you're here like 90% of the time. So you're probably on government paychecks.
I'm here
laying on a mattress somewhere in some project housing.
From midnight to about 3 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, for 3 hours. So,
from midnight till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a rent boy? Do you walk the streets at night selling yourself to people? Because those are kind of weird.
No, he's not like your mom.
I'm inside the computer. If I was out selling myself,
Come on,
I'd be here on the computer, would I?
You left yourself open on that one. You got to admit, Babs.
Yeah, I did, kind of.
Now that's a mama joke. Hey, I like that movie. What was that? I Remember the Titans. That's one of the better movies around. Y'all haven't seen it.
Radio's better.
Yeah, I like Radio.
Damn it, Racky. It looks like I'm going to be in your neck of the woods in January.
Stop on by, bro. Where you coming?
I don't have the exact date yet, but we're supposed to have an event just outside Dallas.
That's about 5 hours away from me.
Well, that's cool. It's like 18-hour drive for me one way.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, anything over 6 hours, I try and fly, but I understand having events, you got to bring stuff and all that. But yeah, 18's a long way.
Do you have bus
Are
trips,
you gonna
like-
buy him, Ricky? Are you gonna buy him some vignettes when he arrives?
If he comes to New Orleans, I will. I'll buy everybody dinner.
Oh well.
Beignets. Where I'm going tomorrow night to the Marina restaurant, they got what's called a shrimp beignet. It's bacon wrapped shrimp in a fried beignet with powdered sugar on top with some type of red sauce. Oh my goodness.
That sounds amazing, but
Yeah.
shellfish would kill me.
It's not healthy, but it's good.
I'm allergic to shellfish, so I'd just be sitting there like, what the fuck?
Good times. No, Dallas is a cool city. It's I have some friends that live over there. A lot of the oil industry comes out of there. Dallas, Lake Charles. When I did my fab shop and insulating company, we did a lot of refractory work in Lake Charles and Houston area.
They're talking about moving the Nationals there this year.
Cool place, though. It's huge.
If I could fly with lithium batteries, I would, but they kind of frown on that shit.
Yeah.
They do now, but they didn't back in the day, Fender. Back in the day, you could fly with a 6S 8000, no one would bat an eye.
Yeah, I know. They definitely frown now.
Even though, and yet they would still make you take anything over 2 ounces out of your, or whatever it is, 4 ounces or whatever out of your carry-on. Any gel.
Yeah, no
they won't
gel.
let you have the 4 ounces of. They won't let you have the 4 ounces of hair gel, but they'll let you take a 6S 8000 on the plane.
Yeah, that could do just with a simple fuse, right? A simple electrical charge. Think about what.
All you'd have to do is short it. You just
Short
have
it
to
out, yeah.
cross the wires, and that thing would go up in smoke instantly.
Hey, you ain't got to do that. Just find something to put a hole in it, and you're good to go.
Never thought about that. But you could ship those and still fly, Just have them ship
Yeah,
over there.
we've tried that before, and then I dealt with the nightmare of getting my batteries to where I needed them in time, and shit got damaged or lost. It was just a nightmare. It's just easier to drive.
Yeah, I do a lot of driving, so it's not bad. My daughter loves to drive. She drives me everywhere when we go on long trips or whatever. But
I'll know more when they post the actual date because we're going to find a campground, drag the camper down there for about a week.
yeah, that's cool. That's the way to do it. Yeah, a lot of good activities down there. San Antonio, Dallas, Houston has a lot of activity. A lot of things to do and see.
A lot of things.
We'll see. I was up in the mountains in Maryland, Pennsylvania area last weekend, so they learned not to trust weathermen from out of town. Good God, it was fucking cold.
Yeah, they've been getting the hurricane tracking wrong here. Every one of them is kind of headed towards Louisiana, and none of them have really hit. And they got another one in the Gulf supposed to hit us Thursday or Friday, and it's coming right at us. So I'm like, that's the best thing ever if it's coming right at us, because they're probably wrong and it'll veer off left or right. But
It was supposed to be in the 70s and 80s, and we were only going there for 2 days, so I didn't pack any warm shit, and the highest it got was 43. Running around, competing, climbing on the rocks in shorts and a t-shirt. I was fucking cold as shit.
Bender, why don't you stop wasting time with meaningless chit chat and give Rakia proof of a globe? Because if you two were to hang out together, you'd be telling your friends that he thinks the Earth is flat, and he'd be telling his friend that you think the Earth is a globe. So instead of chewing the fat why don't you provide the proof or the evidence that you have as to why we're on a globe bender?
Actually, if me and Rakia were to hang out, we'd probably just end up drunk at some bar somewhere.
no, there was a couple things wrong there. I wouldn't tell anybody he believed in the globe for one, and I definitely wouldn't drink. I haven't done that.
I think by the end of the evening, there would be fisticuffs because you'd be saying, wow, look, I can measure horizontal, and you'd be saying, Bender, well, no, of course, that's curving, obviously, and there are forces, obviously. And Raki would be like, come on, look, let's check out the medium, let's do some tests. But obviously, Bender, you'd be way too drunk to conduct anything straight, right? Like now.
For a second there, Chemo, I thought you were gonna say that by the end of the night you were gonna get fisted, and I thought, no, I don't think they get down like that.
No, Bender might. Raki is not. He's a man of God. But Bender, yeah, give Rakia, give us the proof. Give me, give Jeremy, give us all the evidence for a globe. What have you got?
I have my digital sundials that you cannot explain on your model at all whatsoever, and they won't work on a flat Earth.
So you're saying the Earth is a globe because of your device?
It only works on a globe.
He's trying to disprove, instead of giving us evidence for a globe, he's going to disprove that it's flat for some reason instead of proving that it's a sphere. I don't know why.
It is evidence, Jeremy, because the sun has to be on the horizon and below or level to the device for it to start reading time. It'll read time all the way until I've got mine set for 9 p.m. right now, or until the sun sets.
Yeah, but how does this prove that the Earth is curving and spinning? Built a device.
Proves that the sun. The only assumption I made when I designed it was that the sun was roughly 93 million miles away and that light rays are parallel.
Crazy assumptions on how the sky works. I always tell you guys about this. Your whole thing is crazy.
Wonderful. Then give me the math I would need to make the same device work with the sun setting due to perspective, Jeremy, and the sun staying at the same altitude.
You got to stop assuming how the sky works, what it is, what the distances are, what the things are made of. You shouldn't. You're jumping.
Hold on. We always lay assertions and assumptions, and we build on those assumptions, and we try to falsify those assumptions. And if we can't falsify those assumptions, or if we can't prove that they're wrong, then there's a clear sign that this thing is likely to be true. But in your case, when you try to prove the flat Earth, you can't. And when you want to disprove the globe Earth, you can't.
Fine
How can
you, but don't say it is true.
Say again, percent. Your mic's really low, percent.
Give me a second.
Yeah,
his mic is really loud. Because what we're looking for, I mean, every single day. I mean, I heard Jake earlier on. You know, half a decade, and yeah, I mean, as long as it takes, Jake. As long as it takes, we will always try to protect others who will be deceived. Now, as long as this continues to happen, Jake, right, where people like you are deceiving young people who have no chance of figuring out for themselves at such an early age what the shape of the Earth is, then this is our duty, right? We have to make sure mankind is functional. It's better than what it was years and years ago. So we've regressed. We haven't had a chance to actually move forward. They've brought us back, Jake, really, when we think about it. We haven't really advanced. You haven't been to Mars. Your kids are not going to Mars. And your grandkids are not going to Mars.
What makes you so sure I've never been to Mars?
Because obviously, you know the science behind it. But the idea is that you haven't done any of these things.
Well, how do you know? I mean, maybe I work for this clandestine organization and we ferry people to Mars all the time.
Because it's not even that it's not feasible. It's not scientific.
What's that mean?
I'm starting to think he has been to Mars.
Yeah, with the fairies, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all adding up. It's all starting to add up now.
Wait,
right?
but hold on one sec. I'm curious about what Bender said. He said that sundials can't work on a flat Earth.
I said a digital sundial, not a regular sundial.
A digital sundial. Why would that not work on a flat Earth, but work on a globe?
If the sun stayed at the same altitude throughout the day, it would have to move slower when it was rising, speed up as it went over you, and slow down again.
Agreed. And if you don't know why that's supposed to be happening, you need to restudy physics and mathematics and a little bit of angular velocity and momentum and perspective.
Could you explain that again? You said it would speed up when it's above me.
If the sun stayed at the same altitude all day, it would have to move slower as it was rising, speed up as it went overhead, and slow down as it set.
The angular motion.
Exactly. Exactly.
Why would it speed up if it was overhead?
Look at a jet aircraft that flies over your head.
Because it's closer to you, so it would be moving fast. Parallax would be different.
Moving faster. It appears to be faster for your angular reference.
Therefore, on the digital sundial, you would have to have different slots, would all have to be separated by different angles, and they're not. Every slot in it is cut at exactly 7.5 degrees.
Right. And on a globe, at a subsolar position, the sun is closest to you. Right? Isn't that the same thing? As opposed to when it's rising or setting, when it's furthest away from you?
The angular speed changes, not the velocity. Not the linear velocity. That's what you're talking about perspective. That's linear velocity. The angular velocity is what would actually changes. That can't happen on a flat Earth if it's how you say it is.
Does the sun stay at the same altitude on the globe Earth model?
To stay at the same altitude, what does that even mean?
They said that if the sun is at a fixed altitude, it would be moving faster when it's above you as opposed to when it's rising or setting.
No, the sun is the same distance to you.
Roughly.
Roughly, yeah, with a very, very small fractional percentage difference.
Yeah, so I'm saying the same thing would happen on the globe, because when the sun is rising on the globe, it's furthest away from you when it's rising and setting, and it's closest at a subsolar position.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your point?
The proportions are vastly different. On the flat Earth, the difference in distance is significant. On the globe Earth, the difference is imperceptible.
Fractions of a percent.
93 million miles compared with 3,000 miles. Even if it's at 3,000 miles, we'd still see an angular change, which we don't see.
How do you know that the sun is 3,000 miles away?
Well, we know it's more than 3,000 miles away.
No, but when you're making when you're doing your debunk of the flat Earth and you're saying that it's 3,000 miles away, how do you know that?
Well, less
3,000 miles away.
Less is worse, and more. The greater distance is worse for you, also.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not answering my question. I'm just asking why.
We know it's not 3,000 miles away because that angular velocity does not change.
Exactly, it's not 3,000 miles away.
But it's you're talking gibberish.
But it has to be much. It has to be much. It has to be much greater.
No.
I'm just trying to figure out why.
So 3,000. So if it's 3, you talked about perspective, right? If something's 3,000 miles high, and it takes a certain amount of time for it to go from horizon to horizon, then we can calculate the angular velocity, and it's not changing, and it should. And we can actually do the quick math for it if you'd like, but don't play dumb and say you don't understand that simple math. It should be intuitive to you. Watching an airplane. So if it was really close, like 30,000 feet, watch how an airplane doesn't change very much as it's way in the distance, and suddenly when it's overhead, it's going very fast and then slows down again. That's something only 30,000 feet, only 5 or 6 miles high. So we know that has to change. So why doesn't it change with the sun being 3,000 miles or 93 million miles?
Why would it not change if it's 93 million miles away?
It's still going to change a little bit.
Changes by a fraction of a percent.
Imperceptibly.
Isn't it the same thing? It's changing.
If it's flat, if it's going above you, if it's coming towards you and then going away from you, you can calculate, like I mentioned earlier, very simply, how fast that angular velocity will change. If it's 30,000 feet, 5 miles, if it's 3,000 miles, or 93 million miles. And we're not seeing that change. We're not measuring that change.
Well, I have a serious question that pertains to this. Are we looking at the apparent sun or the actual sun, no matter where it is in the
When it's
sky,
above
even if
you,
it's
it's
directly
the actual
overhead.
sun because there's no refraction when it's above you.
So when does it start being the apparent sun? When it goes off to 1 degree of,
When does refraction start? When does refraction start affecting its position? When there's an angle
no,
of
it's
incidence?
angular size.
When there's an angular size,
Yeah, it's angular diameter. When is that starting to change?
as it goes farther away from you.
Which it
Always, but
doesn't.
every time it doubles the distance, it halves its size.
Right.
But if it's an apparent sun, you agree
No,
it
no,
could be.
the apparent position of the sun. It's not the apparent sun. You're still seeing the sun.
No, you're not. You're
Yeah, I
seeing
don't.
8 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the
That's
position
fine.
of it. That's the position.
No, you're seeing
So
8
the
minutes
gist of
ago,
what you're
according to
saying
your
is that-
religion.
The gist of what you're saying is that it's not that it wouldn't happen on either model. It's just that it would be different on the flat Earth model. Because initially you said that it wouldn't happen on the globe model, but then now you're saying that it would happen, but it will be different. So could you explain how it would be
It would
different?
defy first principles, wouldn't it?
What first principles?
Well, that we know how perspective works, and now you're saying that there's some new effect happening, which I guess is technically possible, but you're going to have to come to me with that effect.
You mentioned
What are
refraction.
you talking about? I haven't mentioned anything about a new effect.
No, someone mentioned refraction. So about
different on the
actual,
flat Earth model.
someone mentioned actual versus a refracted position, or even the object. If you could go through some lensing or something through the atmosphere, it could be slightly different. I don't know what the point there is.
Show me a uniform,
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm asking, how is it going to be different on the flat Earth model? You said that the speeds would be different. It would be faster on a flat Earth model than it would
only
be
overhead, and then
Only
slower
overhead,
at
yes.
the horizon.
How do you measure something that's 8 minutes not there? How do you measure
cares?
something that's not there?
Well, if you really want to get pedantic, okay, the TV monitor you're looking at is several nanoseconds away from you. So the TV monitor that you're looking at is not exactly like you're seeing it.
So what do you do? You time dilate the ruler?
No.
You time dilate it 8 minutes to the left?
You're just looking at light reflecting off something always. So you
But
never
it's
really
not
see-
there.
It
That
is-
light is not there.
It is there.
No, it's not.
there.
It took
You're
8
seeing
minutes to
that
get
light.
there.
The light has, just because the light bends a little doesn't mean it's not there. It means the
According,
light
it
has
sure
been-
does.
the
According
light
to
has
your
bent.
religion,
No, according
that
to
sun
your-
could have been turned off and you wouldn't know
You're
it
right.
until 8 minutes.
Correct.
So how do you know the sun's there?
You don't.
Exactly. So how did you measure something that you don't know is there?
Is the sun not moving faster at a subsolar position in the globe model? Is it not moving faster?
Nope, it moves the same number of degrees per hour all day long until it gets to the horizon. Then there's a slight slowdown because of
as we've just mentioned.
So it does change speeds then.
Only at the horizon when refraction takes into play.
Hey, Moya, can I borrow you in the other room for a second?
And when you guys are done, I'd like to get a question into Bender, if I may.
Still scrambling over his Foucault shit.
Full
Should
cult
get down
is-
there in a minute.
Why is Foucault so complex? We've talked about that 1,000 times. What's the problem with Foucault?
Let's let SC go.
Hey, why does the Earth look like a sphere when it's really flat?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so if a car's driving down the road.
Well, I want to make sure
One
they
second.
understand the
Just
fact
one
that
second.
you have something going
I'm not
overhead.
understanding it. I'm not getting it because I still don't understand how it would be different. Because on the globe model, when the sun is setting, it's further away
Yes,
from you.
but we
Just
talked
like
about.
flat Earth
Let me go real slow on this one. Look, you got the sun going from horizon to horizon in the globe model. In what we actually see in reality, we measure it, change a very, very small difference in the sun, right near the sunset within about a half a degree. And after that half a degree is over, it is a uniform angular velocity from sunrise to sunset. Aside from that one point where it sets, everything else, it's uniform with no change at all. Now that can't happen on a flat Earth with a sun at 3,000 miles high, because you would see a distinct and measurable, and I can give you the numbers if you'd like, how much it would have to change from sunrise to sunset, barring that distortion at the very end when it sets and rises.
Does
Yes, you
that
can't really-
mean that it's impossible for any altitude on a flat Earth?
actually, yes, every altitude has a problem with it,
Yes,
and
every
the only one
single
that doesn't work, or the only one that works, is a globe so far.
Correct.
Now you can come in with something that'd be useful.
You're saying that, but you're not actually showing that.
Yeah, it's simple math. It's simple math to show that, right? If you can't envision that, with the sun, even in the model, you've seen the little models you saw in kindergarten. If you saw where the sun is going around us, that doesn't change. That velocity, the angular velocity, does not change. If something's on the ground, like the best example is the airplane flying overhead. You've all seen this. Oh, the airplane way in the distance, all of a sudden, and even race cars, coming by you. And a Doppler effect, the sound changes. Everything changes, right? Slowest above you, or fastest above you, and slowest as it goes away from you. The sound changes frequency as we expect it would. All that is intuitive. We all should know this. You're denying it for some reason. I don't understand why.
Denial, not just a river in Egypt.
Unless you're trolling. It was a serious troll. You've got us. Okay.
Right. Now, if that car is, if you're standing in the middle of a racetrack and that car is going around that racetrack, let's say it's circular, it's still the same distance around you. So if it's circling around you, then it's going to be moving at the same speed regardless of.
Right.
Are you at the North Pole?
Right. Hold on. So so let's compare NASCAR with you're at a drag strip. You're at NASCAR watching it from the center, or a drag strip watching it from the stands on the side. You can hopefully understand the difference of what you would sense as far as its angular position in a field of view, right? NASCAR would be going around you. If it was a perfect circle, going the exact same angular velocity around you, 200 miles an hour. Speeds never change. Angles never change. Now you go to the drag strip. That angle is very, very slow and very, very fast when it goes by your line of sight, when it's closest to you, and then very, very slow as it goes off in the distance. Is that hard to
NASCAR
understand?
shouldn't feel nothing going at 200 constant velocity, right?
Nope, it's not a constant velocity.
Just light a cigarette, lay back, right? You feel nothing, right?
Hold on.
Hey, you light a cigarette and then the earth is flat.
Let me finish real quick.
You guys are delusional, man. Delusional.
I didn't say. Can I finish? I didn't say constant.
Hey, boo-boo. Hey, the picnic basket.
Constant angular velocity, linear velocity, angular velocity. These all words have meaning. Now, the velocity of that NASCAR is changing. The angular velocity isn't, but the velocity is.
Ask a NASCAR driver what he feels at that
I've raced NASCAR. I know it.
You've raced, and you're talking like this, dude.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
I worked at the Daytona Speedway.
When the center
At the Daytona Speedway.
I don't race in NASCAR.
As a kid, right?
A NASCAR. Listen, what you feel.
It's a bad example. Anyway.
I was trying to bait you, but you weren't following because you're just going to get smart.
Yeah, go ahead. Just talk. Go ahead.
Change of velocity doesn't have to change the magnitude. It can change the direction. Hold on.
Why are you talking over him? Just shut up.
SC, listen. The velocity can change without changing the magnitude, meaning that 200 miles an hour may never change. But if you start turning, there's a change in velocity.
How do NASCARs go, Zanuck? What do NASCARs do? Don't they turn constantly?
Why do you got to answer a question with a question? I asked you. When you have a 200 mile an hour car, that's its magnitude, and I'm changing my direction slightly. Am I changing velocity, even though 200 miles an hour doesn't change?
What? Say again. Sorry.
If I'm going 200 miles an hour, this is the rate of change of the distance with time, right? If I never change that, but I turn slightly, is my velocity changing?
No, but you're feeling it.
No. So you can't answer the question. Please.
What do you mean I can't answer the question?
Just answer the question. Yes or no.
Look, it depends. Your wheels might. Yes, you might change slightly because you're applying friction to the ground. So yes.
No, you apply to change a direction.
Listen, carefully. If I change the direction just ever so slightly or a lot, and the magnitude, the 200 miles an hour does not ever change, does the velocity change? It's a yes or no question.
No, the velocity doesn't change.
It does change. So you're right. This is why you have the confusion.
Listen,
he doesn't know a scalar versus
He
doesn't know a scalar versus a vector.
This is exactly why
when a NASCAR is traveling at 200 miles an hour in a non-linear velocity, you feel it every second of the time, my friend. Don't try to play games with me.
I'm not playing games.
Now, try to match that with the speed of the Earth an angular rotation at the equator at 1,000 miles an hour, and you've just entered La La
You
Land.
just get two
Listen, because you're
conflicting
louder
terms. That's not the same
doesn't
thing.
make you smarter.
Listen, you're making no sense. I'll say
You're
it again.
making no sense. But
Well,
listen, I
listen,
didn't come here to
try to
argue
open
with
your
you,
ears.
Zanuck. I
Try to
came in.
open
I
your
have
ears.
like
Listen,
10 minutes.
try
I'd
to
like
open
to
it.
ask
Try
Bender
to.
a question, if I
Essie,
may, man.
Essie,
We can
my
pick this up
turn.
another time.
Not gonna
My
work
turn.
like that.
My turn. If you're going, I'll give you the answer because you're not going to play. If you're going 200 miles an hour and you slightly change, the magnitude is 200 miles an hour. That doesn't change, but because you're changing the direction, that is a change in velocity. Because a velocity means a change of
Acceleration.
a vector and a magnitude. So yes, the speed never changes, but the velocity is constantly changing. That's why you feel the G-forces on your body against the door, against the seat, against your seat belts.
Cool story, bro. Cool story. Can I ask
the
you
answer
a
to it.
question?
When
You
you feel
asked
a
about
change of
NASCAR. I
inertia,
told you I've driven
momentum,
one. I told you how they work. You just want to ignore it.
I'd like to ask Bender a question if he's willing, of course.
What, you concede you don't know what velocity means?
Dude, I'll have
doesn't even have to
conversation with
concede.
you any
We
day
can
of the week,
tell.
maybe tomorrow. Right now, I have no time. I have to go somewhere. But since I saw Bender, I haven't seen him in a long time. I really don't care about you, Zanuck. Honestly, bro. You
We'll
have
go to
no
a private meeting with Bender then.
Yeah, go.
We'll see you guys somewhere else.
Bender, how's it going, bro? Are you okay?
Yeah, I just got back to work and got a new apartment, so I'm doing good, Montreal. I just been gone for a while.
I'm good to hear that, bro. I haven't seen you in a while, and I hope you're okay. Seriously.
Thanks. Yeah, we're getting back on our feet and doing good. So
Way to
Good stuff.
obfuscate.
Good stuff. I was just wondering, the Hasselblad project, have you advanced it? I'm sure you probably didn't have any time, you know.
There we go.
I
Good
was
job,
more,
Zanuck,
I
by the
was
way.
more worried about, making sure my wife and kids had food than that right now. But I'll get back to it when I get a chance, Montreal.
Cool, bro. Cool. That's all I really wanted to say. Okay, Zanuck,
way
I
to
got like
control
10
the
minutes. What do
table,
you
buddy.
go ahead? What do you want to talk about?
All right. So when we talk about velocity, it seems that there's a little confusion on what that term actually means. It means a change in magnitude and direction. So if you can keep your speed the same like NASCAR or the sun in the sky, but the angle is constantly changing, that means the velocity is changing. And then that's how the centrifugal force is actually.
Yes, that's why it's constantly
changing.
felt like an merry-go-round. Whoop-de-doo, you just passed grade 1. What's
Right.
your point, dude?
You said if you're in NASCAR and you're keeping at the same speed, you'd feel with amazing forces. And it does if you're turning.
Like
You're hallucinating, bro.
No.
You think that
Oh
here,
my
ask
God.
Bender. You have no clue what you're
Montreal,
talking
you're just
about.
posturing, dude.
Ask
You're
Bender.
pretending like this didn't
Bender,
happen.
if a
Hey, hold
NASCAR is
on.
going at
No,
200
no.
miles an hour around the track, do you constantly
Sorry,
feel
dude.
something, yes or no, bro?
Yes, and that's called centrifugal force.
Okay, so?
So you have that, even though you're turning, you're not changing speed, but you're changing direction, and that creates that force.
Yes, it's called linear momentum.
and you know
What
how
is
you
your
can
point?
No, it's not called
You
linear
can put a
momentum.
Sorry,
pitchfork Colts pendulum
not
on it,
linear.
and
My
you're
mistake.
completely wrong on
Circular
everything that
momentum.
comes out of your
My
mouth.
bad.
Stop it. Slow down and start thinking because you're just making nonsense and gibberish.
Yep.
You really are. I
Dude,
mean,
you're in a fantasy
hey,
la la
siding
land.
with
You
you
not
don't know what's
understand that.
happening.
You
So the
think
point-
that you're traveling right now at 4 million miles an hour. You are delusional. Do you understand what you're talking? Do you understand this?
all I hear is someone saying I'm delusional. That doesn't.
You are
understand.
delusional, bro. More than delusional.
Okay,
They
so
have
we have to-
convinced you
okay,
that you
so
are
how are you
traveling
even
at
at
4
4
million miles an hour
Let's go back
at
to
this moment without feeling it.
Okay,
You're
hold
all
on.
delusional in
if you're
here.
not
Where are you
turning,
getting
you're not
4
feeling
million
it.
miles an hour from, though?
Well,
You're
that's
not
my
feeling it
estimate.
if you're
By
not
the
turning.
cosmic
Remember I told
background,
centrifugal
Zanuck,
force,
stop the fuck talking for a minute.
velocity,
You might learn something, dude.
velo-
Stop the fuck
velocity.
talking for a second, bro.
Hold
Listen,
on,
you're the one that keeps on talking.
You're
I
calling.
got it worded edgewise.
Have you heard of the
Come
cosmic
on, dude.
background
I think he was trying to
radiation?
explain to me about how he got 4 million miles per hour, though. That's
Yes.
He's making shit up. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I'm not making shit
well,
up.
he's talking
You,
about
you have
cosmic
no
microwave
clue. You're the
background
dumbest person
expansion
here,
and thinking
Zanuck.
Yeah,
that
I'm
these objects are moving.
It says SE Montreal. He doesn't know what velocity even means.
Yeah,
Dude,
the thing
have
about
you
that,
heard of the
that 4
cosmic
million miles is
background
that,
radiation?
that
Yes
cosmic
or no?
microwave
Of course,
background radiation.
Everybody here has, except
Why
maybe
is there
you.
so many people talking at once?
I don't know.
Jeremy.
Allahu Akbar.
We'd like to
Jeremy.
pretend I'm not here for
Can
some
you hear
reason.
me?
I hear you, Mr. Reality.
So I just came in here, and it sounds like I just entered some backwoods Pentecostal church because all I
You
hear
did.
is can't
The
make sense of
tongues.
anything.
All right, Essie, can you please just give people space when they're talking, and I'll give you as well. Might be a little more easier for people to understand what you're actually talking about.
Sonic, really? I
No, it
prefer
won't be.
talking to somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about.
Who? You don't know what you're talking about? Yeah, I know that.
You.
Oh, me? Really? So let's go back
Answer
to the
one question. Can you please answer one question? Have you heard of the cosmic micro radiation?
Microwave.
Background radiation. Yes or no?
Microwave.
Can you get the
Well,
term
I haven't
straight
heard
before
of
I
it
answer?
like that.
What are you asking me?
Do you know the CMB? Do you know what it is? Yes or no?
I think most everyone here has heard of cosmic background radiation.
Okay, dude. Then, do you know that we are
I have an
traveling at
argument against it.
1.5 million miles an hour as compared to that? Yes or no?
That's not
No.
what
Who's the
they
guy
say.
that
No.
keeps talking over Zanuck and SE?
I know people just.
That's Mr. Grimm, dude.
Won't stop talking
Yes, we
every
are
time.
going fast. We only feel change in direction. If it, at a constant speed, we only feel the change of direction. If we're going at a linear rate, straight as an arrow, we will not feel anything regardless of the speed. Regardless of the speed. You think you're very impressed with these numbers, these high rates of speed, whether it be NASCAR or a jet airline or anything. But if you're not making a turn, you're not going to feel anything.
Stop monologuing, dude. Do you
a
admit
turn.
that we're traveling at 1.5 million miles an hour right now, according to your religion? Who said no?
Listen, the difference between that is the cosmic microwave background and the space expansion, which I don't believe in either one. But the argument on their side about it though is that we're not moving. The space in between us we're not actually having that velocity. The space is expanding between us to give us what we see as that velocity. So
empty space is expanding. This sounds like a valid argument.
We're not moving.
Yeah, does this sound like a valid argument to you, though?
They make
Listen,
story
I'm
after story
making-
to make up their bullshit. It's all bullshit.
I know.
Bro.
I feel like it's bullshit too, right? But for you to say that
a valid argument and the premise
they think they're moving that fast,
can connect to the
they don't
conclusion.
think they're moving that fast. They're not saying that they're moving that fast. So you keep saying, so you agree that you're moving 400 or 4 million miles per hour? No, they don't agree, because they don't say that they are moving. They say that the space in between is what's expanding. So they're not actually the ones moving.
Yes, they make up stories, bro. Like when it comes to the light speed, we're never going to achieve the light speed. When they see a problem, then they say, oh no, here, we resolved it. It's not, let me finish, man.
Radiation.
I'm going to fucking just drop if you guys keep cutting me off.
Hey, but Grim.
Oh my God.
You agree that Boo Boo has the picnic basket, yes?
Can I interject for 1 second?
I think I made my point. I'll let it ride.
Yeah, if you, Essie, if you're in a Cessna airplane on a perfectly calm day, flying in a straight line, do you think you'd be able to tell the difference between how fast you're moving at, let's say, 180 miles an hour versus a Concorde flying in a perfectly smooth day in a straight line? Would you feel any difference?
Shit, yeah.
Really, what would be the difference?
Shit,
Like,
yeah.
could I pour a soda in the Cessna?
I was going to say, yeah.
Could I pour a soda on the Concorde?
Yes.
You sure can. You can have a glass of champagne.
Not a problem.
Can I walk?
What's the difference?
The Cessna's going to be a little hard to do it, but let's assume that the Cessna's a little bit bigger, but I'm still doing 180. And can I walk to the bathroom forward and backwards on that airplane? And
No, not
the
on the
same as
Cessna.
on the.
There's no
Not on the
bathroom.
Cessna, you'll be peeing out the window.
I just modified the airplane. I said another plane moving 180. So
Okay.
I'm on a plane, and can I walk back to the bathroom at 180 miles an hour and on this Concorde at 180?
Yeah, but
Can I
you're changing
pee?
the story now. You said, can I feel something in relation from, tell the difference between a Cessna and a Concorde? Trust me, dude.
What would be the difference?
When what would be the difference? You don't
Yeah,
think
how
you'll
would it
hear
manifest?
you don't think you'll feel a difference in a
No.
Cessna or a
No.
or a Concorde
You said
traveling
here.
supersonic speeds?
You said
Seriously,
here.
dude.
You said here.
The only
Yep, I will-
difference is the seats on the Concorde are more comfortable. That's it.
You don't think you'll feel the vibration from the engine's difference, from the
No.
propeller? You don't think you'll have different noise
Yeah, there'll be
variations?
different noise. Can you tell the difference between the two? Could you tell the difference? Like which?
Yeah,
one
I
is
just
faster?
told you yes.
Which is
Well,
hold
just
on.
make the question
Which
this.
one is
Can you tell
faster
the
is
difference
question.
between a Concorde flying at 500 miles an hour and Concorde flying at 1,000 miles an hour? Same plane, same exact plane. Could you tell the difference of the two speeds?
That would be a little bit more tricky, but you probably would.
No, you won't.
So
Actually, it gets quieter.
You're changing the goalposts now.
No, it gets a little quieter.
Well, no,
for
it's
the
a new
Concorde.
question.
It gets a little quieter.
The
for
point is that
Concorde.
you can't feel velocity. Is the point that we're trying to get at, which is the constant velocity is not
Linear
something that's-
constant velocity maybe, but angular velocity you'll feel it every single time, bro.
Right.
Sure. An angle means acceleration. A turn makes acceleration.
Look, you're gonna tell me now. If the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, angular velocity, you won't be able to feel that.
Linear.
You seriously believe
you're
that?
confusing it again.
Yeah.
You're confusing
I'm not
it again.
confusing it again.
Yes, you said
I'm living in reality. You're in La La Land.
That's not angular velocity. That's what the point I was trying to make earlier.
So the angular velocity is pretty
Yes,
slow.
rotational speed is measured by RPM. I'm very aware of that, but I'm putting you on a point on that sphere. I'm
Yeah,
putting
of
you
course.
on a point at that sphere, and
you keep on saying the wrong
like
thing.
it or not,
yeah,
you can talk RPM all day long. At that point, you are experiencing 1,000 mile an hour speed. Yes or no?
But the acceleration, yes, but the acceleration is really low because
With
it's
respect to what?
Hold on, Zanuck. Can somebody else talk besides you?
Of course.
Or is it just you? You gotta keep talking constantly.
No, he keeps on saying the wrong thing. Go ahead.
Well, just let other people talk. I'm responding to them.
So.
All right. Yeah, you're going 1,000 miles an hour at a linear velocity. You're right about that. But the angular velocity, the turning, that's the part that you could potentially feel. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever you want to count it, we turn really slowly. So yeah, we're our linear velocity is fast, but it's our angular velocity that's slow.
Correct. But it means nothing. 1,000 miles an hour is 1,000 miles an hour at any given point.
Oh my God.
You cannot get away from that.
So now if I'm in my jet air,
linear velocity, so we don't need to get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, you understand that the radius makes a huge difference, right?
Get away from that.
Wait a minute, but you understand, like,
linear velocity.
You know that carnival ride that spins around. You know, whatever that linear velocity is on that ride, let's say it's 30 miles an hour. If you were to start shrinking the radius of that carnival ride, you would get smushed in no time. But if you started to extend it out at 30 miles an hour, it would become less and less force on your body, right?
Perfect example.
Listen, I understand what you guys are trying to do here, but
Well,
I told you,
what's wrong
no
with what I
matter
just
how
said?
big you
Ricky,
make
I mean, I was going to say Rakia. I said Montreal. Why won't you address that?
I am right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Make the circle. Let me address it. You can make the radius of the Earth up to up to Pluto if you want. No problem, as long as you keep that point at the edge of the surface at 1,000 miles an hour. You're going at 1,000 miles an hour. There ain't nothing you can do about that.
You're right.
Unless you want to change the laws of physics.
You're right.
Right, but the G forces would change, right? As the radius changed, just like on the carnival ride.
Yes.
At 30 miles an hour, you stick to the wall, but you don't get squished, right? But if you start to tighten up that radius at 30 miles an hour, you'll get more and more squished. And if you open up that radius, you'll feel less and less. Eventually, if it was wide enough, you would not even feel anything.
No, that's the trick you guys try to play.
Can I get
Why is that a trick? That's mathematics of centrifugal force.
Yes, agreed. But like I told
can I
you,
ask you a question?
make the radius as big as you want, the circumference as big as you want. It doesn't matter. Make it 1,000,000 miles. No problem.
That's a
As
bonus.
long as that edge, let me finish. As long as that edge is traveling at 1,000 miles an hour, you have to deal with that speed at that point.
And the equation is the mass times velocity squared divided by the radius. So you can see where the radius comes into play here. That equals the force that you feel. So the bigger that radius, the less you're going to feel.
You keep on going back to your same story, and I'll tell you again. Make
It's
it
not
the
a story.
size of
This
the
is used
universe.
every day in all rotating
Doesn't
machinery.
matter.
All
1,000
rotating
miles an
machinery
hour.
uses this.
If you can understand our model and we fly eastward, if we fly westward, we're flying west now against the spin at 1,000 miles an hour, that number you like, that you've been using over and over. What do you think what would happen? What happens at that point when we're matching the speed in the opposite direction?
Dude, we've been through this 1,000,000 times.
Well,
You guys
why
just
do you
don't get it, dude. If you're flying into a headwind of 1,000 miles an hour and you're going 500 miles an hour, how are you going to advance?
You're not going to answer the simple question. What do you
I
think
just
happens?
answered it for you.
What do you think happens when we go 1,000 miles an hour westward against the spin?
You tell me.
Suddenly we're just...
How fast are you traveling?
I just told you, 1,000 miles an hour against the spin of 1,000 miles an hour.
Then you're not traveling. You're not going.
Then you're
anywhere,
not going
are you?
nowhere.
Go nowhere. Not moving at all, planet.
He's
With
in 3D
respect to
space.
what?
You're not moving anywhere.
What about
because
that?
the
You're
Earth
not
is rotating
moving,
underneath
not if
you.
you're
You would be
traveling.
moving.
You become inertial. You would not feel any centrifugal force.
What happens if you turn around the other way?
match the speed of the Earth. Otherwise, i.e., stand there on the
You're
ground.
delusional. Listen, guys, I gotta
Hold on.
take off.
Let me give you the three. I'm going to give you three values.
You're delusional, Kimo.
Can I talk?
Why
Why are you
These
interrupting me?
guys are in
Why
La
are
La
you
Land.
interrupting me? Why? If you're going east, if you're going westward, 1,000 miles an hour, and standing on the ground, and then going eastward 1,000 miles, I'll give you three values of what you'd feel. You want the answer, or do you think you know it already?
What's your answer?
Zanuck, I'll take this La La Land fantasy another day with you, man.
They can measure it.
Specialized, guys. I'll catch you guys later.
Thank you for coming to Narnia,
Have a
Essie.
good one. My pleasure. I'll be
Take some
back another
candy
time.
with you. Here's some candy and some rock.
Thank you, bro.
Well, the
Have a good
question-
one, guys.
the
See you,
question
Rakia.
Okay, goodbye. The thing that I would ask about this is if you were on a jet aircraft traveling 1,400 miles an hour and you turn 1 degree per hour, do you think you'll feel that change? If you turn 10 degrees per minute, do you think you'll feel that change? There is a radius involved with that, and you will feel one of those and you won't feel the other.
That's a great example also.
Look, we've asked pilots if they recognise that the Earth is spinning, and they say if the Earth was moving, they wouldn't be able to land safely.
No, no pilot says that except for
that was something that the flat Earth engineer, what's his name, said, Brian Mullen.
Yeah,
there's a pilot. There's a pilot online. I'll have to dig it out, but
yeah, another one of these these flat Earth shills. I can't reveal myself because then I'll be fired from my job, and I won't have an interview with a real pilot to determine whether I'm a real pilot because I know I'll get debunked immediately and show not to be a real pilot.
Jake, those are the ones that have their face blurred and their the voice.
Yeah,
when we think about it, it probably
to protect their identity.
It might be possible because those boats, those sea liners where the planes land on them and they're moving, right? Obviously.
You mean aircraft carrier?
Aircraft carrier, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
They're moving it. So it's not that big of a deal. But they have to kind of go in the way the boat's moving. But then they have that wire that catches the wheels. Yeah?
Catch wire, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't catch the wheel, so that's a bad thing.
It catches the tail as a hook, tail hook. It's called tail hook.
The tail.
Listen,
that's
what's
the one,
nice about that, this is a good experiment in this whole relative motion experiment and thought process. You got this boat. It's kind of cool for propeller airplanes on aircraft carriers. Back in the old days, they could point that aircraft carrier into the wind, a 30, 40 knot wind, and almost land like a helicopter. They approach the ship, they line everything up, and they come in at a speed that actually matches the oncoming wind and land almost without the wheels even rolling. In fact,
but why do they need that wire? Why can't they time it mathematically? Let me ask my question then. I didn't get to finish my question.
Miles an hour when they land.
Goodness me, so I'm saying, why can't they time it so they slow down just before the boat and they don't have to deploy the wire? Is it because the boat is moving?
The jets are so aerodynamic and sleek that they have to still travel at 150 miles an hour as they're approaching.
Yeah, but as you approach the boat, you just slow down.
Yeah, but the air is only going 40, so they're going 150 or 120.
Yeah, but you slow down is what I'm saying.
They still are going much faster across a short runway. So they have to have a tail hook to stop them. That's what happens.
I had the opportunity.
Holy shit, Zanuck. It says here that an F-18 in full dirty configuration, flaps down everything, is still touching down between 150 and 160 knots.
Right.
Knots.
Yep,
that's like 180 miles an hour.
Whoa.
That's some crazy stuff right there.
Have
That's
you
like
ever
grabbing
seen
a Lamborghini.
the Blue Angels fly?
Landing on a postage stamp.
Wow, that's a real expert, right? Expert pilot.
By the way, as soon as they hit the tarmac, they're going full throttle, whether they catch the cable or not.
Yep. So the wheels hit, boom.
All they got to do is put in a reverse, like NASA, when they reverse to the ground. Why don't they just have something like
thrust
that?
in reverse is not that great. No, it does slow down, but that's not enough to make an impact.
Mike's still low
on the,
percentage, by the way.
150
Super
miles an
low.
hour. What?
Percentages, Mike, is really low. Did you want
Not
to
working?
Yeah.
Mic check.
What?
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
We hear you.
It's working, but it's been louder. It's been
We
louder.
want to see a great example of relative motion. Look at those. There's a competition up in Alaska where they land these little planes into the headwinds, and the whole idea is to
ever
land like a little-
concede?
I'm still talking. I was in the middle of a sentence, Chemo.
So
Yeah,
they
but
have these
you're
planes
just,
that can land in the headwidth, and the competition is to land in a square, and they can actually land these. There, that's you got S2L competition. They land in like a square, and that whoever's like hits the square and doesn't move the most wins the competition.
Oh, that's how they
So
practice.
that's a great exercise in understanding relative motion.
So Zanuck, explain, because I hear the flat Earth community say that when you're traveling east and then versus traveling west, you should be arriving, if you're going to the same spot, traveling along the equator, you should arrive at different times. But is that true? Do you arrive at different times?
Of course
if the Earth
not.
is spinning?
They've confused that point probably more than any other point that they've ever talked about on this.
Okay, so we'll explain. If they're both flying 1,000 miles an hour, one's going with the rotation, one's going against it. What is the?
Well, the common misconception is understanding what that 1,000 miles an hour means. That's relative to something out in space.
Is it a different 1,000 miles an hour than the plane?
Let's just say relative to the ground.
Is it the same 1,000 miles an hour, Zanuck? The Earth 1,000 miles an hour, and a plane 1,000 miles.
Is the air not moving and the Earth is spinning underneath the air?
No, but that 1,000 miles an hour, is it the same speed, the plane and the Earth?
Yeah, I mean you're 1,000 miles of land per hour that you're going over.
Is that the same, Zanuck? It covers 1,000 miles of land every hour.
No, because the Earth is not. The Earth is spinning at an angular velocity, which gives us 1,000 miles an hour linear velocity at the surface, at the equator.
At the equator, yeah. So do I cover 1,000 miles of land every hour?
No, because the surface itself is moving.
All right. Okay. Do I cover 1,000 miles of space every hour?
Yes, you're covering 1,000 miles of space every
I
hour.
cover 1,000 miles of space every hour, yeah?
Yes.
An aeroplane is covering 1,000 miles an hour of space also.
It's just sitting on the ground, sitting on the runway. It's going 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, yes.
No.
You're
When it's in the
there,
air, is it
1,000
doing
miles an hour.
1,000 miles an hour as in the plane or 1,000 miles an hour of space?
Whether you're a submarine or your boat or you're standing on a runway or the airplane's just facing whatever direction it wants to face,
you have to think
why
about
would
that
it
one, didn't you?
change if it's going 1,000 miles an hour on the surface? Well, it's not going to change.
Yeah, but the plane's in the air.
Maybe Zanuck, maybe let him make his point because you're looking really bad right now.
Oh, really? I'm looking
No,
bad.
it's
How am I
not.
looking
But
bad?
don't tell him.
Come
Don't
on,
tell
no,
him
it's
anything
not.
bad.
I'm glad you said that.
Let him carry on looking gleamingly
No,
shiny and diamond-like.
giving him room to hang himself.
No. Don't put him down. Zanuck, you're doing great. You're one of the top ballers in this community, right? Don't let anyone
Great.
don't let anyone throw you off.
That's why the S2L video is a good example of relative velocity. You get the wind speed and you got the ground speed. They're two different. Just like the Earth spinning is different than when you're flying through
I asked
the
him
air.
24/7, Zanuck, about the top ballers and your name.
Yo, why do you keep interrupting him like that? It's so
exactly.
annoying.
I know.
You want to have a conversation or you want to just babble about?
Just mute him.
Well, he's babbling.
Well, then, answer the question then about the 1,000 miles an hour plane. I asked you about the space. You said
did.
yeah. Now I'm talking about the
Very-
plane, and you're talking about the
very
plane on the
accurately.
ground, and I'm saying in the air, is that going at 1,000 miles an hour with
It
1,000
doesn't
miles an hour of
change.
space?
It's
You
with the air
you always
pressure.
have-
Yeah.
You always have 1,000 miles an hour component when you leave the ground.
Yeah.
That angular velocity,
Because
that linear velocity, doesn't go anywhere. It still has to be retained.
So if I just lift the helicopter off the ground, will that move at 1,000 miles an hour?
If you're on the ground 1,000 miles an hour, if you're in the air right above that spot, you're still going 1,000 miles an hour plus a small fraction faster.
So I could get my helicopter and just hover it over the land, and it will move underneath me.
No, you hover your helicopter. By the definition, hover, you're going to stay over that same spot. If you have a little bit of forward momentum added, you will hang over that same spot indefinitely.
That's the theory,
This is
right?
stupid. Why are you asking these questions, Kimo?
It's just part of the story. I mean, there's no way he's going to be able to prove it anyway. So you may as well ask him, and he may as well just give the answer. And it doesn't matter either way, right? He's not going to show us a spinning ball.
Timo, let me get a minute with Zanuck real quick. Let me get a minute with Zanuck.
Absolutely.
Zanuck, does the deviation of Coriolis differ depending on your azimuth?
What are you really asking?
If you go north-south, are you going to deviate the same amount as if you're going, say, east-west?
No.
Explain deviation.
Coriolis pendulum is going to spin
Well,
exactly the same way.
Coriolis in both directions, but they're both very different.
Pendulum depends on the latitude.
Yeah, but are you going to get this? Do you get the same deviation in Coriolis north-south as the east-west?
Okay, you didn't pick up on my question, but no. The answer is no. There's a different
No?
deviation.
No, it's the
Jeremy,
same amount of deviation per hour.
See, not
There's a
this is where you got a
different
serious
No.
fucking
We're
problem.
going north.
No,
We have a
it's
north.
it's hard to
North-south.
understand.
Can't hear anyone.
North-
Everyone's over talking.
Can I explain? There's a north. If you're going north or south, there's this change. Right, that you're trying to preserve angular linear momentum. Right, going north, it has to be conserved, and there will be a deviation eastward going north or south. Now going east or west, it's still Coriolis, but it's a different deviation. It's called Yotvos, and Yotvos will actually be a little different than the Coriolis effect going north or south. And then those are in the charts I posted many times as well, what that deviation actually is.
And Scott, whenever there's a chance,
So
I'd
say
like
you're
to
going.
ask you a question. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So say you're going northwest and southeast, you'll have a different deviation than going straight north-south or straight east-west, right?
Different.
Yes, because Yotvos is different than the Coriolis effect going north or south. That is due to this to try to maintain or try to conserve linear momentum. It's a violation. If you don't deviate, you'd be violating conservation of linear momentum. Going east or west, that's Yotvos. That's where you're. Hold on, almost done. When you go east or west, that's where you're actually becoming lighter, effectively lighter going eastward and heavier going westward. That's the effect. Does that answer your question?
Okay, but you realize Foucault, we get the same deviation the whole way around. Every hour it gets X amount of degrees of deviation, right?
Foucault at the equator is 0. There's no change in the Foucault.
We're not talking about the equator.
Not the equator,
Anywhere
dude.
else.
And
Anywhere else.
in North America, you have it rotate every 33 hours, 31 hours, something like that.
Yeah, but it moves X amount of degrees per hour. The
Correct.
hours doesn't
Correct.
change from hour to hour, right?
Yes, because you're dealing you're dealing with the three axes of motion. It's another proof of round Earth.
Right.
It's not a scientific
It is a
experiment.
scientific-
though.
Hold on a second.
It's not.
It
It's
is
not.
very
Hold
scientific.
on. Hold on a second, Zanuck. You just
It's
said the
not
deviation was.
scientific.
Hold on. You just said the deviation was different going to north-south, but now here's the Foucault showing the deviation doesn't differ. It's the same going.
It's a different
It's the same every hour.
kind of
And the precession
deviation.
is the deviation, no?
No. The deviation when you travel from the equator
Okay.
northward over that.
The
Let me
precession
finish.
of the Foucault isn't the
You're
deviation.
obviously not
Precession is a pattern.
I
I told you guys you guys have definitional issues because you're saying deviation, you're meaning something different than he's meaning.
That's why I asked you to define deviation at the very beginning. This is why, because I know that you would go down a rat hole of confusion.
Okay.
Going
the
northward.
So you're really
You're
talking
telling me the
procession is the word you want. Procession.
Like
You're
what
telling me
you're
the
doing,
precession-
Zanuck. We're asking you to stay on point, not to deviate onto something else.
What do you mean
That's
we?
why I wanted to do.
Okay,
That's why I wanted
hold
to.
on.
That's why I wanted to define
Try to stay on
deviation.
track
Before we-
and then don't deviate. That's what we mean
That's
by
why I
deviation.
wanted to define deviation.
Let Jeremy ask this question. Let Jeremy ask this question now that he's got the right word.
You're telling me
hear
the
his question.
precession isn't the deviate. You're telling me the precession isn't the deviation due to Coriolis. That's not why the precession happens.
Just use the word
How
procession.
do you
Question.
even
Just make
put
your
that
point with
together?
procession.
It's like a word. This is a technical word. I
It's
hate using
okay.
that
It's
word
okay. It
over and
doesn't
over
matter.
again,
But just
we're
Jeremy,
foul.
just let it go. Let deviation go and just use the word procession. I think you'll get your question out.
No, we want to use the word deviation because when you
I
fire
think he
a
was
bullet,
commenting on that
Yeah,
last
it
statement.
deviates.
though.
When you swing the
It's
pendulum, it
deviation to
deviates.
precession.
Well,
The
that's
long
not
and
tell
short
us-
of what Jeremy is asking is why, when you're going east and west with your Foucault's pendulum, is the precession the same as when you're going north south?
He's asking.
It
us
is
to
Shouldn't be the
deviate.
same. The Coriolis
No, that would be an
deviation should be
intelligent
different
question.
going north-south and east-west. Obviously, there is no Coriolis when you're going east-west. Otherwise, plane
Yes, there
flights
is.
would be different times.
No,
Exactly.
no,
yes,
there is.
yes. If Earth's spinning
Of course it is.
underneath the plane, going
Coriolis is just
east-west,
Otherwise,
Coriolis is just this deviation as seen from a rotating reference frame. That's all it is. It can be up or down or left or right. You're confusing and you're trying to like put one part of this understanding of Coriolis in your mind and using it for all applications, and that's an error.
the Foucault
then he's trying to
pendulum
put
deep.
himself in a vacuum, so there's no
The
air
Foucault
pressure.
pendulum
because
swings in
he's
a
looking
fixed
for effects
plane.
that could only happen in a
Zanuck, what's
vacuum.
difficult to
Hold-
understand
hold on,
about
hold on.
Coriolis? When a
Foucault-
sniper
Foucault-
fires his Zanuck,
Oh my
when a
God,
sniper
it's so
fires
hard
his
to talk.
bullet,
Yes.
he has to account or Earth turn because the bullet will deviate from the target. That's what we're
Correct.
talking about when we say
That's a
deviation.
ballistic.
Well, he's talking about Foucault's pendulum. So he's
The
talking about.
Foucault pendulum
He asked about a
is a
plane,
different
though.
example.
Jeremy,
Yeah,
the,
We're
the
talking
key,
about Coriolis, yeah? So you're
Different
saying that with the...
example. I can't even think of a more disjointed.
You can't. You know what? I shouldn't even have
example.
got involved in Xanic with this because
Jeremy.
it's just too crazy.
Well,
Jeremy,
he's one of the
yeah,
best
you should've-
ball
yeah,
athletes.
that's-
I think
You want to
Jeremy,
learn
he's
about it,
looking
I'll
for
help you
Jeremy.
understand, but you just can't fight it.
Jeremy, do you think I could just throw one thing in there, guys, without it being overtalked?
What's up?
Is this something you agree with and understand, Jeremy? That at the North Pole, the Foucault's pendulum will rotate at 15 degrees an hour, but then as you decrease your latitude, or I'm sorry, as you increase your latitude, decrease it, you're going to change the rate of rotation for the Foucault's pendulum. It'll be different every latitude level. Different rate of rotation.
Yes, but the problem is the X amount of degrees per hour doesn't differ if it's going east, west, or north, south. That's the issue with this.
It does differ going north, south. It doesn't. If you change your latitude, that'd be a north, south motion, right?
When the pendulum,
You go
hold
from
on,
10 degrees-
Beach. When the pendulum is swinging in a northerly, southerly direction, it's not getting a different. You're
No,
not
that's
getting a
not how
different
the- see, that's where the
deviation
problem
from
is,
going
Beach.
east, west.
See,
You're not getting a.
That doesn't matter which direction.
Why are you talking all over me, Xander?
Because I want to stop you. You're being very confusing here. You're confused. The fixed plane does not matter which way it's spinning or moving. If it's going back and forth, east or west or north or south, that doesn't matter. That's not the purpose of a Foucault pendulum, to determine which direction it's actually, which plane that is oriented. The
So
plane of
Coriolis
motion
doesn't
is not-
matter anymore.
Measure the change.
No,
That's
just
it.
listen to
Not
my
the
thing, Jeremy.
exact
He's trying to explain it
position.
to you. You're imagining what's happening in the kind of a wrong way. Because remember, the Foucault's pendulum is only going back and forth in its own plane. It's always just swinging linearly. What's happening is the Earth underneath it is turning. So what does it matter if the Earth is turning at a fixed rate, which it is, and the amount at which we're getting for the Foucault's pendulum is dependent upon the latitude? Then it's not going to. It doesn't matter whether when the Foucault's pendulum is swinging back and forth.
Yeah,
there's no
if you
impact
started in
on
the
whether
2
it's
o'clock
north,
position or if you
west.
started
I
in the
can't hear
6
you. This
o'clock
guy
position.
keeps talking all over everybody. Who is this guy?
I'm the oldest person in here, so
If you're the oldest
fuck off,
person here,
dude.
you should be smart enough to know you can't hear two people when two people are talking at the same time.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you can actually.
You've
You're
been
just
doing it
bad
for
at
like
it.
an hour now, bro. Chill.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not ever getting any space either, right? No one's ever backing out. So I continuously have to keep trying to talk, right?
That's fair,
But
yeah.
eventually you'll be able to
Come on, we've got to
understand.
share the mic. Yeah,
You're
that's
kidding
right.
me, right?
And it's not
M.
like
Scott
I'm not
Beach
saying
and
anything.
Jeremy were just talking. Yeah, but you were saying it right when they were talking. We're
I
all,
was just
true,
we're all
adding to the
listening.
plate. It's not like I'm doing a Xanac and taking over for the rest of the day. So
That's
fucking
also true
relax.
as well.
Yeah, but as soon as you added, we couldn't hear whoever was talking, either Jeremy or M. Scott Beach. As an audience, we can't hear it.
All right, so look, we know that Gwyn wants to go after Jeremy.
Right, but you're
So
making
Jeremy,
a bigger deal about it when I do it than when fucking Chemo or anybody else.
well,
does.
come on,
It was just
Mr.
very
Gwyn, trying to get you
evident
win
right
next,
there.
yeah?
I'm not
Guys,
blaming you.
come
I'm
on.
just saying that's
Move
what
forward.
happened.
Come on.
All
Something
right,
when
go
I
on,
go
back to
Jeremy.
the point.
Let's get back with this Coriolis nonsense.
You're virtue signaling to bring it up anyway. So
Each
shut
gave
the
a great
fuck up.
example and a great explanation. Jeremy, do you understand what he said?
Well, who
He's
said
talking
Drib?
about something moving in a linear motion. It's really Newton's first law, right? If you understand Newton's first law, it means things in motion do not change unless they're acted upon by other forces, right? So this thing is going back and forth. It's not going to change in space ever. And so when we notice things process underneath it, that's the detection of the Earth rotation, because the fixed plane thing doesn't change. The swinging doesn't change. It doesn't matter which way it's swinging. It matters that the fact that it is swinging. It's like a
Okay, so
gyroscope.
what's the cause? How is this evident? Why is this
Because right
science?
now the Earth is rotating underneath. That's the cause. Now that's the hypothesis.
Yeah.
Now we can prove this. We can show evidence for this by moving at different locations and validate exactly where it is. Determine our latitude. It correlates with the rate of rotation and precession, and then we're done. That's how you do a science experiment.
But you know there are different magnetic fields all over the Earth. Right?
Oh God. Okay, I'm not going to go there. Get Lumen for you for that one.
Well, that's what I mean. We don't exactly know the
Oh,
cause.
Timo, do those vary
When you moved all over the Earth.
specifically by latitude? Like everywhere along the latitude, you're going to have the
Hold
same
on,
magnetic-
Moya. So, Zanik, you realise this is not science, because just because you moved doesn't mean it caused the precession
Okay,
of
this
your
is
pendulum.
the quantum eraser problem with the scientific
See what happens
experiment.
when I wait?
That's not a problem. I'm saying to you now, like here and now.
They
Let's
just
say,
take over.
let's say for
Primo,
example,
can I say one thing? One
Nobody
sentence.
said, "Oh,
all
Mr.
it has
Grimm,
to do.
did you have something
All
to
it
say?"
has to do is affect the dependent
Mr.
variable.
Grimm, do you have something to
Doesn't
say?
have to be the
You know what I'm
presumed
saying?
cause.
barely
Go ahead,
here. But
Graham.
Mr.
all right,
Grimm,
let
would you
Grim
like to
say
say
You
something.
wonder why I
Jump in,
fucking
Mr.
don't
Grimm.
wait.
Grim, hit us with your wisdom.
Could you jump in, Mr. Grimm? Please, what
So
do you
I
got?
was thinking there might have been quite an issue with him understanding the difference, and I noticed about the air pressure moving along with the surface of the Earth. See how far back ago I was trying to wait and be patient.
Talking
So
about
back
science, Mr.
then,
Grim. What are you derailing it for
yeah,
now?
back then when he was trying to decide the difference between the rotation and the speed and the angular velocity, and not understanding inertial differences and acceleration and all that. But he was saying, well, then if a plane is moving and flying in the air, and then Chemo jumped in and said something about a bullet, and I wanted to just clear it up that a plane and a bullet do not move through the air in the same way.
Ah, one is a projectile, you
Right.
mean, right?
Right.
Oh my God!
So
I like said that an hour ago or half an hour ago, and some asshole said that I was wrong.
That's why
Thanks
I was
and
for
they
focusing on
are
the sniper and not the aeroplane, really. But it's
right,
still not
but he
science,
was
though.
using an airplane as the example. Chemo, sorry to overstep you there.
No, that's
That was the
fine.
only issue. That's why I said, well, if you're using one thing as an example, don't come in and then say so the bullet when you were just saying the plane.
Yeah, I know,
That's how it gets
maybe.
confusing.
Nice guy, Mr. Grimm just confirmed that for me, that a bullet and a plane fly in the air differently.
True.
Are you willing to accept that
One is
now?
controlled, the other one
that's
is
true.
not.
One's a projectile,
It's only
but
difference. There's a lot of difference, but what we're really talking about is what the basic foundation of how they're being controlled is. One's
Right.
not, one is controlled.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to point out the fact that he said that he has no idea what he's talking about.
Who said you were wrong?
You did, you idiot.
About what, bitch?
I told you that a plane has controlled surfaces, so it flies differently in the air than a bullet does.
That's not what you did say, my friend.
That is what I said, you fucking
No,
idiot.
you're fucking weaseling again, you motherfucker. I listened carefully to your statement
man.
because I know flat earthers, they fucking mess up and they don't understand the terminology.
You
we
are
use.
literally the dumbest person I've ever spoken
Okay,
to.
listen, a flat
Because
earther,
I was talking about this with you half an hour
I'm
ago.
very
You can't even
insulted.
remember.
Let's
It's like
say
you
All
are
right, guys, I just wanted to clear that up.
Either of you would be
English, second language.
I'm sorry for clearing that up.
that evolved pretty quickly. So look, one of the biggest problems, Jeremy, right? We can't let these guys get away with it. Okay, they gave a very good explanation about the Coriolis business, but if it's not science, we just can't accept it, Jeremy.
The thing is,
go on.
The thing is, Chemo, they're saying this Foucault pendulum is showing us Coriolis, right?
Yeah. That's fine.
Now they have to say that the Coriolis is doing the same thing whether you go north south or east west, which doesn't make
I
any
just
sense.
explained that to you. I just explained that, dude.
Yeah.
Would it be, Scott, would it be true to say that Coriolis and Atlas are the same effect, just in different axes?
You know what? I don't know if I would say that, but they're definitely very deeply connected. Like, obviously, there are effects that happen. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're the same thing, or just in different axes. They manifest in slightly different ways.
Coriolis just means a perceived effect. It's just a perceived deviation for where you think things should go to where they actually go, or vice versa. And that effect can be in north-south, or it can be east-west, but it can in X, Y, and Z axes. It can be all over the. It's the effect itself.
The key here is the pendulum swinging is
looking at something from a rotating reference frame. That's all Coriolis means. Simply.
I think it might have to be a steady effect over time, like
yes,
a constant
the key here is the Coriolis effect isn't really acting. There's nothing happening to the pendulum. It's just swinging back and forth, while happily, unbeknownst to it, the ground rotates underneath it. And because it's attached with the gimbal that allows for free rotation, it has no idea, but as it swings back and forth in a linear path, as far as it's concerned, the ground is rotating underneath it. The ground rotates underneath it at a certain rate depending on latitude. But it has no sense of north, south, east, west.
Right, it's not sharing
It just keeps
information.
going back and forth, back and forth. And then how fast does the ground rotate underneath it? Well, that depends on the latitude.
Perfect.
So,
well said.
Depending on your latitude, right? The ground's moving underneath this object. That means if a plane's in the air going east-west, We should have
this is the
different flight
problem.
times.
Veach,
Focal
how do we
pendulum
explain
is
this?
a ballistic.
How,
I just
Veach,
said that though.
help me understand how
Because,
matter
Zanik,
if
the
it's
problem is the
ballistic or not.
cause. That's why
He uses
Jeremy's not
plane and
happy.
then
I'm not
ballistic.
happy. None of the flat
the
earthers are happy.
deviation. So the problem. Maybe the word deviation is confusing for you folks, but Veach, I'm appealing to you, maybe because you're like the voice of logic here and reason. How do we differentiate between this precession, the Earth rotating underneath the pendulum, with an airplane or a helicopter leaving the surface of the Earth, which is rotating?
Well, the pendulum is a ballistic. It's like a bullet, guys. It's not flying through the air. That's why I said that. I was trying to avoid this crash at the end of the wall here.
Zanik, if you
No,
can't
that's not
articulate
exactly
your
what it is.
argument, okay, you shouldn't be conferring,
the
like,
pendulum
you
isn't
shouldn't be back in
flying.
school
Well, I
trying
might
to
not be good
confirm
at
and ask
articulating
what
it,
the
but we got a
answer is.
room
You
full
should
of
know
people
the
here
answer.
so
If you
far.
don't have
We
the
have to
answer,
see motion, and motion fixed in
intuitive.
space
you should
is not
concede.
going to change unless something acts on it. So we
It
can
should be
count
intuitive.
on that pendulum being fixed in space, meaning it's not going to move. So anything moving underneath it, like if it has markers like the pendulum has, we know that this surface must be rotating because we know the pendulum can't be. Now the Coriolis is perceived deviation for where we think it should be going. It doesn't have to do with the Coriolis effect of something leaving from the equator going northward, whether it's ballistic or an airplane. That's a different Coriolis effect.
Zanik, all right, stop going
Logos is a
on.
different Coriolis.
Your
Zanik,
answers are
for
so
their
long.
argument, though,
Zanik,
how do we know
look.
it can't be?
So you say that we
It's break
can't.
Newton's first law. That's why.
You say we can't detect
Well,
acceleration,
yeah, I know,
right?
but you got to explain that
When
to them.
something is
Yeah.
just moving, can't pick it up.
Things that are moving cannot alter unless the force acts on them. And once
Yeah,
you
so
eliminate,
how? So listen, then, if we can't
once you eliminate
detect,
all those other
You keep
forces,
interrupting him, man. Let him talk, dude.
goodness
Chemo, wait.
sakes, if you can't detect
He's talking, bro.
acceleration, how can a device
Jesus.
detect
You
acceleration?
can.
what acceleration are we detecting?
Because if we can't pick it up, you're saying we can't detect it.
What
How does
acceleration are you detecting? What are you talking about?
the Earth? The Earth
That's
is
what it's
the Earth is
doing.
moving
Where is
around.
this
Yeah.
It's detecting that.
We can detect it. We can measure
That's what
it.
the
Yeah, but I'm
focal
saying to you,
pendulum
how
is
if
doing.
we can't detect it, if
Keep
we
on trying to answer you, but you keep on talking over me.
Go
You
on.
can measure the acceleration at the equator. It's 0.3%.
you're not listening to what I'm saying. If we're in the car, you always tell us we're in the train or on a plane, you can't feel when it's going at 500 miles an hour. So if you can't feel it, how does the machine know to feel it?
Because this machine is more sensitive than you are. This is beyond human perception. We can measure this 0.3%
No, it's
lesser
because
weight at the equator due to centrifugal force. It's really simple.
No, it's not very simple because if we can't detect it, how is this machine
on, dude.
detecting it? What's more
Well, because the
sensitive in
human
that
eye,
device?
here's an example. A human eye, picks up about 40 microns, and then can't resolve much less than that.
Yeah.
Right, but there's lots of stuff we can see much less than that with equipment, and same with this.
Exactly. Like you
You
can't
can't
see
feel it with your
microscopes.
equilibrium, but your equilibrium is not a very technical piece of equipment, really. It's just a little
No. But
fluid and
our devices can detect vibration, not movement, like not
Gland.
acceleration.
Yes.
So if there's a vibration
You
like an
build very sensitive.
earthquake, we can detect that. But how are you detecting the acceleration when you're already on it? What is the machine doing exactly? Nobody knows. Zanik, what's going on with this machine? How is it?
No, we know, but you're too dumb.
Right, I think naturally it would be a good thing we don't.
I just told you.
We'd be walking around
Yeah,
dizzy all the
something
time. I
that's
think our
beyond
bodies
the level of
evolved to
human
not feel
perception.
them, actually.
It's beyond the level of human perception. This rate of change, call it its acceleration, centrifugal force, is much too small for the human being to detect.
I'm asking, what's the difference between the sensors on an earthquake thing and on this one? How they're both picking up motion. How are they differentiating between the two?
I think we detect what we need
Change.
to
They don't
detect
detect
to
motion. They
survive.
detect change in motion. There's
How
a
do you know
difference.
it's just a different vibration?
It's the change in motion, right? Vibration is a change in direction. That's what defines vibration.
Yeah, but how do you know it's not just an earthquake under the ring laser? A tremor.
Because it's a constant acceleration in one direction, not multiple directions like a vibration is. Vibrations are different than, you understand what the difference between a vibration is and a constant acceleration. It's called jerk.
It's a one-way vibration.
So
It's a one-handed clap.
Jerk.
You don't really hear the sound.
There's an acceleration, and there's a change of acceleration. So if you
I
have
want to build it from
scratch.
scratch. Let's build it from scratch. So how are you building a device from scratch that picks up motion when you're already
We're going
in
way in the weeds with something that
It's your device, Sanic.
Let's build it from scratch.
Yeah, build it from scratch. So what are the first things
No,
that we're
it's
going
not.
to need?
This is the key.
The first
This is
thing
the
you need to do is
quintessential chemo
break out a
strategy. This is his.
thesaurus.
Yeah, let's build it from
This
scratch.
is
Now,
his strategy.
what are the components we need, Zanik, to pick up
A
Earth rotation?
thesaurus.
What do
First
we
of
need?
all, a thesaurus and a dictionary, so that you know what words you're using.
Well, go on, explain it. We've got is it like a plastic box? Is it a metal box? What goes in the box?
It's
No,
classic.
What are you trying to measure?
thesaurus these
Is it a
days.
glass box? Is it a rubber box?
What exactly are you
kind of box
trying to measure, Chemo?
We're building a ring laser gyro from scratch.
No, he wants to build a seismometer. A rudimentary. They did this, by the way.
Yeah, build it. Okay, so what do we put inside the box then to detect Earth? Anyone should be able to do this, right? It's not a big deal. Science, yeah? Anyone could do science. So how do we build this ring laser gyro?
Get on Google.
Kimo, why not build your computer from scratch and fuck off?
Because I want to detect the Earth's rotation. I can't do that with my computer. I need
Wait a minute. You might be able to.
I need a ring laser gyro. So can you tell me how to build it? Right, Sims, what do we need? Are there any engineers here who know how to
Someone
build?
show me how to build
Why don't you just borrow bulbs?
a ring laser gyro, please?
Yeah, any engineers in here that can help me? If you want me to prove rotation, help me build a ring laser gyro.
to create a mining company to mine the rare earth.
I'm going to buy one. We're going to build it.
First, let's see you build the Foucault pendulum first. Let's see that first, and then we'll help you with the more technical stuff. Okay?
No,
I think we can all agree to that.
Let's get the real
I'll even spend a
scientific
couple hours
experiment.
to help you go over it.
So nobody knows how to build a
do
ring
the
laser
Foucault
gyro.
pendulum first, and then let's see if you can figure that out and how that works, and then we'll move on to something a little more technical.
No, all we need is an engineer.
How about that?
No, we need an engineer who can build a ring laser gyro.
Engineer?
Yeah, and then anyone can build it, and then we can do
To build the
science.
Foucault pendulum, you need an engineer?
That's just a
I know
string
a
with
couple of
a.
engineers in middle school that built one. Then
That's just a plumb
So we
bob,
might
right?
wanna-
A plumb bob. You swing it, you get deviation.
is it? Yeah, let's see. You see, you build one then.
Build a plumb bob.
I mean, I don't really have any faith in your expertise as of yet. I need to see.
What you got to
something
do
a
is
little
build
more.
a plumb blob.
Before,
plumb
like
blob,
an investor's
plumb
not going
bob,
to just invest. You
and
don't have a
then-
good business plan, is what I'm saying.
Grab it, let
I
it
wanna
go,
see
let
if
it
you-
swing.
If it's worth it.
Look, Mr. Grimm, you're not an engineer or a technician, so can you make space for the experts, the professionals who can build ring laser gyros and help the flat earthers prove that the Earth is spinning?
I just finished saying you don't need to be either one of those things to build
Your
a
bill
ring
is
laser
sentient,
gyro.
so he's a lot closer than you are.
I don't think anyone here knows how to build
I
a
am.
ring laser gyro. That's a big deal. They're hard to do.
Look, is the Earth
I've
rotating?
looked at the
can
principles on
still
how
look it up.
to, what is the construct or like what the component of the ring laser gyroscope on Wiki. You can actually find it.
You're supposed to be
The
clever
principles are
boys, clever men.
I can build you a
The
nice
principles
dab
are
rig.
quite simple. You're basically checking the differences in like the lasers when they reach a certain point.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I need
Because the
lasers. So that's
gyroscope
not
itself
hard.
is
So we need a couple of lasers. So now we know what we need. We need a box. We need lasers. What else do we need?
I think people here are more interested in actually
Chemo, we're not
debunking
gonna-
your
You're not going to be
theories
able to
about the
build a
flat
ring
Earth.
laser gyro.
Why, Jeremy?
Now,
Why?
listen.
It's been built
I think
before.
it'll be-
Why can't we do it again?
I think if you get the
It's one of those
principles
moon
right,
landing things where they've been to the moon and they've lost how to do it.
Let me just go one more thing with this. So the Earth is you got the Foucault pendulum swinging, and then the Earth's rotating underneath that, right? That's what's causing the deviation.
They don't like the word deviation.
Why is it that he sounds like the reasonable one right now? This is fucking.
What did you say, Jeremy?
Keep going.
The Earth is spinning underneath the Foucault pendulum, right?
Yes, that's right.
And the
Okay.
Earth is spinning underneath a drone or a plane, right?
Yeah.
But it's not though. We know we can see
Why
it.
not? Why not?
Because when you put a drone up in the air, or we don't see different flight times from east west. We're getting precession when the pendulum's swinging east and west. We're getting the deviation still, but we don't get that with planes.
Again,
So you're talking about two different
focal precession
things
is a ballistic.
Yeah. The
It's
east-west
about
different time
Earth
thing is.
rotating.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but they're still not saying the same thing. In one case, you're talking about the conservation momentum or whether or not that occurs. In the other case, you're talking about the deviation from as due to the Earth's rotation. They're not the same thing at all. So when you talk about east-west times, that's not really related.
It's the Earth rotating underneath the object.
Yes,
You
but
act
it's
like
not
that's not
rotating to cause
happening in the.
deviation.
Go ahead.
What? It's not the Earth rotation causing deviation that does that. You guys are saying you should be able to use the linear speed of the Earth to do your traveling for you. That's a whole different idea. They're vaguely related, connected by the fact that the Earth
that would be
rotation,
lovely.
but they're not the same idea.
Yeah, you're confusing the
No,
conservation of linear momentum and the
All right.
conservation of angular momentum.
So here's the thing.
We invent inertial dampeners, and then you'll be able to do it.
Here's the thing I think. Here's the thing I think you're missing. If you fired a bullet, a magical bullet, right? You fired it. You're at say like halfway between the equator and the North Pole, and you fire it where you're standing. You fired it precisely due east from where you're standing. Okay. And if this bullet it was not possible for this bullet to do anything but go in a straight line. Okay. Then it would begin to deviate at some point because it would not stay on that same bullet path. Like the Earth rotated. There would be
No, it's a magical bullet. You can't curve it.
it's magically straight. It's always going to go straight. So you'll see that's in that deviation that would eventually occur, where the Earth is turning, it's sort of turning off to the left, and the bullet keeps going in a straight line. So it's now starting to deviate. That's the same thing that happens.
So you calculated that, but can you show that?
No.
I mean, that's what we're getting at. There's no
because it's a magical
bullet. Well, the Foucault's pendulum shows it. That's what.
No, the
point
Foucault's pendulum shows that a pendulum swimming back and forth has deviation. It has nothing to do with a bullet.
Well, no, it shows the same principle.
What other force is acting on the pendulum?
No,
then?
you're saying the same force that makes that pendulum deviate as it swings back and forth. It is the same force that's affecting a bullet. You're just assuming that.
Well, in both cases,
they are assuming that, but
the pendulum and the bullet doesn't change. They don't have forces acting on them really. They do the same thing they started out doing. The bullet goes
hear what he's
straight,
saying, Scott.
doesn't change, and then the pendulum swings back and forth linearly. It doesn't change.
He's saying, is that the only answer for why that has movement?
Yeah, that's my point. It's not the only answer.
It is. Well, I mean, so far it is. If there was another answer, that would be up there for competition, and then we'd be talking about that other answer.
It's analogous to say you can swim in water, but you can't. But that doesn't prove you can swim in treacle.
Well, there is a leading answer.
So if the other answer is
it's
something
space
like
spinning over the Earth.
the gravity itself, something, whatever the intrinsic mechanism for gravity might be, itself might be spinning that thing around it for some reason. Like,
okay,
if
let's
it's
say
some sort of
gravity is electrical
force, or smaller than the electric force, is something we haven't really figured out yet.
Well,
some sort of a long,
that doesn't have anything to do with Earth
electric
rotation.
wave.
Well,
very long electromagnetic wave, like so long that we don't detect it yet, but it's that long wave that
comes out of the poles and goes into the equator, maybe.
Yeah. If something like that was to be discovered as the mechanism, then but as of now, and I'm looking hard for that, by the way, but for other reasons, that's not actually anything we can prove at this time.
Well, the motion of the Earth doesn't appear to be a sufficient cause for all hanging objects, and if it's not sufficient to, by itself, demonstrate, across the board this spin in all hanging objects, gantries, and pendulums, well, then it's going to be very complicated, because if we don't have sufficiency, we may have other causes that are hidden. And so,
it's a brave argument.
Can you talk about where it's not sufficient?
One second. It's a brave argument because there's no evidence to back it up. Like, it's sufficient. That's why I'm so, it's not like there's not a consistent argument around the entire globe about how this thing works at different latitudes, or how
y'all
gravity
use
works under
pendulum.
different densities, mass densities, because they do notice that gravity
before
does
we
change
move
on the
on-
surface of the Earth.
Before we move on, I want Lemonbird to explain where it's not sufficient.
Right.
All hanging objects
me
do not
too.
move like the pendulum. If the movement of the Earth alone was a sufficient cause, all hanging objects would precess similarly off of that cause alone. But gantries hang down straight like drums that are
All the
still, and they do not
long
precess like the pendulum.
swinging objects.
It's
not
all
hanging
about
objects.
motion. It can't just be about
You
hanging.
have to.
This is the problem with
dude.
flat earthers. They confuse
3 years
motion.
ago, we talked
I
about that.
think
with
your
him.
objection to it is not sufficient, Lemonbird.
It's not a sufficient objection, Lemon,
You
and
can't
I wish it was.
demonstrate sufficiency. There may be other causes that are unseen. So
Well, I
let's
think
look
you
at
just
stuff like
assuming there should be something going on.
One sec,
method.
another claim. Where are we not
Yeah.
demonstrating sufficiency?
All hanging objects do not precess like the
We're
pendulum.
not talking about hanging objects. We're talking about an object in motion. So can you stick to what the actual where we observe?
Lemon, can you really get that clear and understand that we're not talking about hanging things? They have to be in motion. That's the whole
So,
principle behind Coriolis. Do you understand the difference between something hanging and something actually moving?
So you start the pendulum, and then you can see this effect of the Earth, move of the movement of the Earth on the pendulum, based off of the way it deflects.
Not on the pendulum, under the pendulum.
So I'd like to offer something.
There's a difference.
I'd like to offer something.
Well, please.
So I've
Rick.
seen magnetic forces that when the objects are not moving, they're not magnetic, or you can't measure the magnetic force between them. That doesn't seem to have a magnetic charge. But when you slide that magnetic charge, when you put that object, those two objects in motion near each other, they do have a magnetic attraction. So
you're invoking an electromagnetic
Field
force.
line,
You're
magnetic flux.
You're not evoking. You're not evoking. The ferric magnetism that we're talking about. Where
what I'm saying is, if a pendulum is moving through the air or whatever it's moving through,
Actually,
we call it
limiting to
air.
ferric.
But let's say.
So that's interesting. So you're saying that this motion is actually breaking magnetic lines of field of flux lines, and that's creating.
I don't know if you're even saying lines, like, because we don't really think lines exist. Those are just diagrams, and the lines don't exist. That's just how metal repels itself along what we're thinking the lines. It creates new little magnetic fields with new little north and
It's
south all the way
stronger,
around.
stronger points within the field, so it's like little
And
waves.
it looks like lines because the iron filings line up like that.
Same thing underneath the.
But it's a consistent field. It's not a line.
Ferrocell
Right.
fluid.
What he was talking about, I think what he was getting. and correct me if I'm wrong, Rakia. Were you talking about how magnets work, electromagnets and things work? Where if they're static, if no lines of magnetic flux are broken, there's no magnetism. But if you start like an alternator or a generator, when you start moving things across them, then suddenly you get magnetism. Is that what you're talking about?
I think we might be going into a more technical realm where it's like much longer electromagnetic waves created through more complex plasma interactions, double layers of plasma, which would fold those magnetic fields
I think
naturally on their own.
That's not going to happen on the Earth under normal circumstances.
That's what's around the Earth. That's all
Well,
around
the Earth would have to have
That's six layers. That's 6 layers of it. Those are different layers of electromagnetism with different potential differences as well, and they're separated. There's more to the plasmasphere, that's why they call it that, than meets the eye, and they're learning so much more about it now. They just in 2017 they just realized that Hennis Alfvén was right, that the Alfvén waves, which are another transference of electrons laterally across the field, exist, and we didn't even know that until then, and we've been out there forever.
But Grim,
And
why don't we just?
we're bad at this shit, detecting
Now we're trying to figure out
electromagnetic.
what the cause of gravity. We already all acknowledge that gravity exists, and it.
No, yeah, true. True that.
Let's get
we
back.
have an idea.
The
We have an
problem is-
idea.
The problem is they don't understand the difference between Yodvos and regular Coriolis going north or south, and how that effect differs from just objects that are hanging in a room. That's the problem we're facing right now.
Right,
This is
and that the
big problem.
atmosphere is moving with the Earth. They
the atmosphere is moving with the Earth, because why wouldn't it?
right.
It usually wouldn't
not in sync,
have
not in
air
lockstep,
over.
but loosely.
Well,
So objects in the
air
air.
pressure.
Oxygen molecules released from a plant, it's going the same speed as that plant, and it floats
So that-
around and roughly is going the same speed. It's not going, suddenly it leaves the plant and suddenly it's going minus 1,000 miles an hour.
Right. And exactly.
So the
Well,
object-
air
you need to have
pressure around it
containment for that.
continues to allow it to do that too.
Right.
But you
If
need
there
to
weren't
have a
as much air
container.
pressure, we wouldn't
Focal
have
pendulum and an
much
object going
of this
north or
security.
south. The conservation of linear momentum is a way to understand north-south objects and that Coriolis deviation. Remember, Coriolis is just a deviation that you observe in a rotating reference frame. You're looking at something.
But it's the Coriolis
So we
from
need a
the
focal
ether of
pendulum
moving
in a
space, or
Faraday
is it from
cage.
the moving Earth?
Oh, they have that, by the way. They've isolated focal pendulums and it works perfectly.
Oh,
Because it's not based,
that's the thing we should
not
show
based
them.
on anything
is-
other than motion. So it's only based on relative motion.
Right. So
Relative
this
motion of the
extra long
ether.
electromagnetic wave can pass right
It's
through
possible,
Faraday
but
cage.
that's not what they see. They never see a deviation. They always see predictable. They can predict where you are latitudinally by the fact that this pendulum is
Yeah.
actually fixed in space.
True.
It's plane of movement. It
Well,
has
it's
to be
hard to
motion.
argue.
It can't
That's
be
for sure.
hanging.
It's
It's
from
fixed in
space
space.
moving over the unmoving Earth, though. It's not from the movement of the Earth itself.
Well, no, you can't say it's not. You can say stuff like it could be and it might blah 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 because
It's
even
not.
they don't do that.
It's not.
See what I mean?
I don't feel
not,
movement. And if the
you're
movement
making
of
a
the Earth is
claim
enough to
like a-
deviate a pendulum,
the
I
very
should
focus
feel
on
it.
you.
Fanatical. Yeah, sounds
Pendulum
If the
fanatical.
movement
when
of
you
the
do
Earth
that.
is enough to deviate a physical pendulum, then it should be movement that I can feel.
Man, you're
No,
still living 3,000 years ago, man.
The pendulum doesn't even feel it.
So you're saying you can
Pendulum
put me
feels
on
nothing.
a
You're
false
right.
cult pendulum,
pendulum
and I will
doesn't even
not feel
feel
the
it.
movement of the
You
Earth
just-
beneath my feet as
No,
I process on the
Listen,
pendulum.
next time you're on your sex swing, okay, just swing yourself. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, if the false cult pendulum was worth its salt in anything, then all sex swings would process similarly. They do not in any dungeon.
No,
in any...
they don't have gimbals. They don't have gimbals at the top. So you need a
They don't
gimbal
have
at the top.
gimbals,
that allows
dude.
you to
They're
have
only-
connection.
You need to come in at the top for the sex swing.
Yeah, you need gimbals. You need
Hanging
gimps.
from
You
a
need gimps for the sex swing and
40-foot
gimbals for the rope.
cable. Hanging from a 40-foot
the
cable.
gimp
swinging.
gimbal, the gimp gimbal, Scott, shows no procession on
I
this.
knew you were going to say that. I knew he was going straight to the gimp. I swear.
We need to go to the dungeon and scientifically test this stuff now.
He said now.
We're gonna go to his next
All right,
dungeon.
Lemon's going to take a 10-minute break. He'll be back.
But seriously, Lemon, do you know how the focal pendulum works, Lemon?
Well, they say that it's not the movement, it's when it starts moving and then it shows the effect of the Earth's rotation or something by the way that it swings. Or
I'm asking you, not them. What do you think? What do you think? Do you know how? Do you know how?
I think that it's space flowing over the Earth and that the Earth is motionless and at rest. It's space flowing over the Earth that makes a pendulum process the way that it does.
So you believe in space?
Ether space.
It has physical
Ether
properties?
space.
Yeah.
So space has physical properties.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god.
So time and space have physical properties?
Space does. Time is a concept of the passage of events. It has no color. It has no shape. It is the passage of events depending on what dimension you're in.
So what color does space have?
It does
What
not.
shape does space have?
As far as
Yeah.
I can see, it appears to be a colorless fluid, but it appears to have physical effects. Light
Where
goes
do you see
or
the
against
fluid?
it afterwards.
What-
What's that?
Where do you see fluid though?
In the diffraction patterns of light with
Right,
the
but-
Aries discs.
What are okay? So you realize that there's plasma and dust around those discs, right?
Fascinating.
Right. They're not. It's and all kinds of stuff that would diffract light.
But for
That's
it to have
that's
that
one of the
regular
issues.
ripple,
We
it
see
needs
that
to be a.
plasma. We see
Yeah.
the plasma redshifts light in the laboratory now. So of course they're very dense plasmas, but the issue is it's a lot of distance. So that much plasma could be in between us. That density could be there. That amount of electron interactions. So
Well,
that
philosophically,
redshift could
space
be
can't do
explained
nothing.
philosophically by one theory that literally can't be tested, or the plasma physics that can be tested and proven in a laboratory. And it's strange that the mainstream goes with this other theory that can't actually be tested.
But it can
I
guide
think that might be
exploration.
changing soon.
Hey, Lemon.
But it can
does it,
guide exploration. So space has to be something.
Well, no,
Lemon,
there
does
could
it?
be something
hold on.
in the
You can't
space.
have you can't
is
have
the
this
issue.
assertion.
It doesn't have
Space
to be
has to be
something.
something.
It
could
must
just be
be to
something
guide
in the space.
exploration. Otherwise, the mind stops and turns stupid.
Because so
I
far,
mean-
space was just a man-made concept too to describe vectors.
I mean, in your case, you're correct. If the space is what we call it, then the mind would stop and become stupid. This is a prime example of someone like you who's stupid, because this thing is real.
So you need to guide exploration with a viable, intelligible theory, not
So
one that
mean.
space to nothing. Nothing cannot hold anything. Nothing cannot hold matter. You cannot move through nothing. Light cannot pass through nothing. There must be something to mediate the travel and the interaction. Therefore, space must be a something that is mediating that interaction, something like an ether. It is unintelligible and ridiculous to say otherwise, frankly.
Or we made the concept of space, and then we need to then find what it is that's filling that space as that medium. So you're basically conflating these two different terms and calling them one thing, and that's what I'm trying to clear up. Space is by definition empty, but if you want to put then an ether or something else in that space, then within that space is this ether, I'd say.
It's empty of stuff that we can readily recognize, but empty it is not. Space has to be a something philosophically, otherwise you have nothing to guide your exploration to figure out what space is anyway. You're just going to be
No,
like,
what
I
I'm
expect
saying is
nothing to
more
be there.
technical. I hear what you're saying, but I think to guide what you're saying, like to make it seem, more reasonable, that what is it that's in that space?
It's like the ocean.
Talk about that.
The water and the
Because
ocean are one.
you
Space
seem to
and
be
ether
aligning
have
with
to be
them.
one. Space
seem
and
to be
ether must
aligning
be
with
one
them.
to stop the infinite regression because nothing cannot hold anything. The matter is held in space. Space has to be something holding that matter. Nothing cannot hold anything. That's
But how do you know
philosophical.
nothing cannot hold anything?
Because in our philosophical conception currently,
But
nothing does
No,
not
no, no,
exist.
that's not
Something to
philosophical. Hold
hold
on.
something, it needs to
Yeah,
have
it's a
arms that are
dichotomy.
in existence that can
So
hold something.
You're
making
limiting
here
me
a
to your only two options. You're not even letting me have my own options. You're just telling me this cannot do that.
You can
And I'm
have
like,
your
well,
option.
what if
You
I
can have
figured out a way to
your
make
option,
this do that?
but
Right?
your option is no longer intelligible. It's no
this
longer
stuff could hold
intelligible because
itself
in the
together.
intellectual framework that we have, only
It's
something can exist.
intelligible.
Nothing cannot exist. So
Can you
there
guys
is no
just talk?
philosophical framework
Hold on,
to
Lemon.
even accept what you're talking about.
Yeah, can you guys just
Right.
talk one at a time, please? It's really hard to hear when one person's talking and then another person's talking.
Right.
I don't know why you would even do
Jeremy,
that.
So
Jeremy, to be
far, we're
honest
not
with
saying
you,
nothing cannot exist. We're saying what I'm saying, or nothing.
You feel me? Like
can,
when I'm
can
talking right
exist
now,
within
Grim, no one
nothing.
can hear what you're saying because I'm talking at the same time.
Right. You just started
See how that
talking again
works?
after we already
I
were
know,
in
I
our
Goes
conversation.
on a little
talked
bit.
over you
Just
right
give him
there to
some
show you.
room. I'm sorry
Yeah.
if I overtalk people, but I'm trying to get out my points too. But let's just keep it to 1 or 2 points.
One at
Keep
a
it
time,
short and
please.
simple. Thank you.
Right. So the visible universe, we're not claiming to know where everything is right now or where it all comes from, but in the visible universe, we do have kind of an understanding that there is a lot of empty space, what we think is empty space, or thought was empty space, and a lot of matter, but much less matter than space. And so you're saying that nothing can't hold something, and what I'm saying is it's not nothing, it's space. It's an empty area, right? That things exist in. So I'm not calling space nothing. I'm just saying it's a big empty area where we can calculate vectors.
But the
But
philosophical question.
But what's filling that area? This is the word area. Is what's the space means in this first definition for space, not outer space. Outer space is a different story. The word space in physics just literally means a place between three vectors.
So the question is, Grim, is
so,
it empty of stuff that we can see and interact with, or is it really empty? Because we can't see and interact with everything. So it is a much safer and much more open philosophical assumption to say that there's something there, but we may not be interacting with it or seeing it readily right now, as opposed to say there's nothing there. That is a philosophical assumption that says that we are seeing and cataloging everything and seeing and cataloging everything accurately, which is too much of an assumption with our limited human senses.
Okay, here's what I'm trying to do though. Calculate it accurately. So then I see that this empty space now I can see in physics it's just a place between vectors. What is it causing these effects that's in this empty space? Is it a long electromagnetic wave? Is it a propagation of, perturbations through ether and what is it that is doing these things in this empty space?
It's just a better philosophy
area,
because
right?
something
So that way
cannot
I'm
be
describing
in nothing. Something can only
then I'm
be
not
in
trying to add
something.
physical attributes to the area. Because that's confusing. That's like being able
How
to put a
can
rubbery
nothing
ruler.
interact with something,
It's a
Grim?
rubbery ruler.
How
You
can
keep asking that, but I'm
nothing
never
interact with
saying that's
something?
happening. I'm never
But how
saying
can
that's
nothing
happening.
interact with something? That's a bankrupt
I'm not
philosophy, Grim.
saying
That is
that
a
that's
mind-killing
Philosophy, dude. Stop using the word philosophy. You're using the word philosophy even wrongly, dude.
In your
that's not
philosophy,
even what
you're
I'm
saying
doing.
that nothing can interact with something. That is
you just keep
insane.
repeating it over and over again, so it becomes some sort of a thing that people
Can
remember
you just
only.
hone in on that and ask him where is that said and can he cite it?
Right, thank you.
You're saying that it's empty space. Empty space, nothing. What is
No,
the
I'm
space?
not saying I don't believe that any of this area is empty. Okay, but to be able to describe the area itself in physics and then what's in that area is what we try to do in science so that we can eliminate certain things that it is or isn't. That's what we try
Okay,
to
so
do.
we hold the two different philosophical premises.
So
Could be
start from the
implying
first
that you
one.
can empty the space. You appear to be implying that you
Let me
can
know when I
empty
can
the
get a
space
word
and that
in.
there can be nothing there in the space. I would say that space and ether are one, and that you can never empty the space because there's always going to be a continuum flow of reality there to be the space / fill the space. There will never
But here's
ever
the
be
thing.
anything such as empty space, but you appear to be implying that there can be once you remove all the matter, remove all the waves, remove all the energy, you can have empty space left. I do not attain to that sort of philosophical conception at all. There will always be a
You don't have to
continuum
try
making
this
up
hard
space.
with me, Lemon. I'm not trying to defeat
I
you.
have to
If you
try
don't
this hard to
this
get my points out before you lecture us to death with your multiple points where you won't let go of the mic.
I think you spoke way more than Graham, Lemon. To be fair.
Yeah.
And I did it in a shorter space of time, which allows other people to interject. Frustrating as hell.
I think
We
the
can't have
problem
20 people lecturing in the freaking room. Make your point and let go of the freaking mic.
Okay. You made your point. You made your point.
Yeah, I think the problem, Lemon, is what you're doing is you're taking your interpretation of science and then you're trying to force it on everybody else.
That's wrong.
And the reason I say that is when you say, you say that, something interacts with nothing. And I don't know anywhere in science that that's postulated, which is why I asked Grim to get a citation out of you.
That's what science has done to us. They've interpreted and with their best guess and forced it on to me and my kids and my people around me. That's what science has done. That's what we're fighting against. That this should be an open discussion. Science doesn't close the book on anything. So why not open discussion things like we're doing? Even if it doesn't prove the theory wrong, it can improve the theory in many
I
cases.
want to have a moment to respond to Lemon. So the thing I'm gonna say now, I'm like very limited to how I forgot too much about it. So if anyone here knows more what I'm about to say, please correct me and fix my points as well. So we have something called the Higgs field, which is basically the field that fills this universe that give the matter its own property. And in the Higgs field, there's a property, I don't really know the name of it, which basically allows for the objects that we observe and we see in the universe to behave in the same way. And this is where we get our Newton's law. When there's a motionless object, will remain motionless unless been acted to it. And if you have a motion, or like an object in motion, it will remain in that motion unless there's any force that change that motion or direction to it. So there's a property in that space that allows the object to behave this way. So this is the first thing. To say that there's something, well, there is something. It's the Higgs field that allow us to go in space, and you have a frictionless medium, colorless medium that can allow objects to behave as we see them and as we observe them when you look at the astronomical objects in the outer space. So this is not. There's nothing here is woo-woo. Okay, there's nothing here is crazy. And I don't know, when you say our philosophical interpretation doesn't make any sense, it makes people dumb and stupid, your whole basis has no point. And again, when you say your philosophical views, you're using this even term is wrong. You don't say your philosophical views, you say your explanation or your hypothesis of the universe, or what is the mechanism, is wrong. This is how you address someone's point, or their theory or their hypothesis of the universe. You can't just slam the philosophy word on it because you're using it wrong.
I'm just showing how bankrupt your philosophy is and how it stops thinking.
There we go again. Thank you.
Short, sweet, to the
You're
point.
not. You're just making claims and giving us your opinion.
And I'm giving you the logical basis for the opinion, and you're rejecting it, which is fine, but your philosophy is bankrupt and might stop.
Again, Lemon.
I gave you a lecture already. I'm going to get out my point before I get too frustrated. I yield the floor.
I'm not going to bother listening to you, and I'll turn you right down, and I'll wait for your ring to stop. Carry on.
But Lemon, you'd finish your point. Druss was responding, and you talked right over the top of him.
He's just going to rhetorically attack me.
Well,
who cares?
You don't get to terminate what people are saying because
actually I do.
Think they're gonna
I've heard this stuff several times from multiple people. It's very frustrating to hear the same stuff over and over again. I'm sorry.
So what
anyway,
you're saying?
I'm going to go on mute.
If you think someone's going to say something you don't like, you're just going to talk over the top of them.
No, that's what they've been doing. They've been over talking him by saying the same stuff over and over again. Not attacking the argument, just attacking him.
Well, at the moment, I'm dealing with this particular issue, which is the one I've spotted. So I'd like Druss to be able to finish, please. Thank you.
What I was going to say is you're giving your interpretation, your opinion of what science is, without actually substantiating where there is not a sufficiency or where there is a problem with this bankrupt philosophy. You keep using rhetoric without going into detail. And at no time did I attack the person, Raki. I always attack the argument wherever I can, unless it's chemo, because it's a cunt.
Weird, right?
Yeah, you said his. You're talking about what you think Lemon believes, and I don't get it. I mean, he's just giving his point of view and saying you're not, just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Mm.
He might not have as much to back it up as you do, but it's a new theory, right? It's not going to have all the.
Lemon Bird's point of view is something
I just got cut off right when we were talking about not getting cut off. Yeah. So anyway, I think y'all get the point that I'm making. I don't necessarily agree with Lemon, right? But I do like hearing the alternatives and then making my own decision, other than just saying, "Oh, his philosophy is wrong and his philosophy is right." I don't think we know that. We just have to, like I said, a new theory or something that goes against the current theory might not be 100% right, but it could actually help the current theory or disprove it, and then we can move on and start building on the new theory. So, I mean, hearing different things, this is what science is. This is, making observations or making, new hypotheses and talking through them with intelligent people with different views is what science is all about in my book.
All right. So Lemon Bird's opinion is what he believes, Rukia. You're saying we we take and we we place on him his beliefs. No, his opinion is his belief.
No, what he's observed and what he's discerned through those observed observations seem to be his beliefs and his theory and rhetoric. That's not his opinion. That's what he's observed. Y'all say observations and then thinking through that is science.
Your interpretation of what you observed can be your opinion as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Okay, but that's theoretical
so let's
too,
relax
right?
on
Like, that can be science.
How am I trying to drill into the substance of his argument, Rakia? That's where there's nothing there. I try and drill and say, hey, can you explain this? Can you explain that? Can you tell me why this?
Well,
and every time I do that, it just goes round and round in this kind of rhetoric circles of him.
All right. I said space can't be nothing. So address what space is then, if it is not nothing. Oh.
Can I say something?
Space is a unit area of matter.
Can I say something to Lemon or his philosophy?
Sure.
So go ahead. Yeah, you said that you need ether to get out of infinite regress, but if everything is ether till infinity, you still have that regress. And you said that I had some other point too. I forgot it. Shit.
So when we go to the ocean, we stop the ocean and the water infinite regression by saying that the ocean and the water are one. You cannot have one concept without the other. Without water, no ocean. Just an empty basin, but no more ocean. To stop the infinite regress with what space is, space and ether must be one to stop that infinite regression. No ether, no space. Otherwise, you're implying that there is an empty nothingness space that can somehow hold matter. Philosophically untenable, go.
Oh my God. Well, space is filled with stuff. But the other thing that I had an issue with was, you said that, would you say that something that's not physical can't interact with something that's physical?
Something that does not exist cannot interact with something that exists in the current philosophical conceptions that we have on file. If it can, I would love to hear about that.
What would you say does it mean to exist?
To exist?
Yeah, because God doesn't exist here. It's not physical, and it's still, in your mind, does affect.
To be real, to have, in most cases, physical effects, or barring that, existence that is on some level discoverable and knowable.
So pretty much anything that you can come up with.
If nothing can exist, there's nothing to discover. There's nothing to hold. There's nothing to explore. That's philosophically untenable, because even if space was what you're contending, there would be nothing to explore or discover anyway. There'd be nothing there. That's philosophically untenable as well. Either there's something to explore and discover, or there isn't.
Lemon Bird, according to your beliefs, you believe God created the earth out of nothing. How is that possible?
We only ascribe that to a God. So if God is participating in this, okay.
How can you're saying if nothing exists, it can be nothing, but yet in this next breath you'll agree that God created the earth out of nothing. How is that possible? If nothing
by
is there,
his godlike power. So
yeah,
okay, in that case, bring God in and say that God is doing.
It cannot possibly work.
And you're just asking from me. Why don't you read a book, get a new perspective, and stop being a Cockney wanker?
I'm sorry, but I believe God used existing matter and created the earth out of existing matter.
Based off of what in the Bible? Is that based off of scientism?
There was nothing, how was there God?
Revelation, what are you basing that assumption off of?
Graham.
That sounds like Lael's opinion.
Based off of the fact that earth is made of matter.
That's pantheism, Leo. That's dangerous. That threatens to make God part of your creation. Unacceptable.
Good job.
Are you saying the earth is not made of matter then?
Everything in the
So
Bible is man.
God is given the ability to speak nothing into existence. So unless you're bringing him into this, I don't see what you're talking about.
Made of matter.
Yeah.
Well, we brought him in as an example.
Be made of matter, not be made of matter.
We ascribe that to God.
That's the whole point. That brings in God.
Of matter, be not created by matter.
Oh my goodness, Leo.
We ascribe this to God, dude. So unless you're bringing
know.
God into the equation, I can't really
He created the earth.
Leo,
The
we
main
all
problem
have
I've
a
got,
voice
the main
here,
problem
but
I've got
you
with,
seem to
with
have
the argument.
no
Sorry,
point.
Rocky, go on, mate.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was
That
just
was
saying
you,
we
Grim. I
have
thought you were Brummy for a second. I'm sorry. I told you to read a book. You're very smart. I'm sorry. I thought you
Who,
were
me?
Brummy.
It's not me. I'm not
Oh,
that dumb.
Brummy. I'm sorry.
I'm
I was
not that
whacking
dumb.
you, Brummy. I'm
Thought
sorry.
you were cockney as
I
well,
heard you,
mate.
Brummy. I'm sorry. I did. I'm sorry.
You know what?
I'm a
You
legend,
gotta just
bro.
take a break. You're a bull in a china shop right now. Come on.
Leo, let me ask you a question, Leo. Right? How the fuck, right?
I still love
How
you,
the fuck,
bro.
Leo,
Don't sweat it.
listen, you dumb shit. How the fuck,
Not
right?
you.
How did the matter create the world, or it had to be designed? There's only two options. What are you choosing that it designed itself for?
Oh, there's millions of options.
No, there's two.
Why
There's two
this
options.
false dichotomy, bummy?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It is.
It,
It is.
it made it itself. It made itself, or it was made. That's it.
No,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
can
No, I'm
arise
asking
from
Leo. Is your
nature.
name Leo anyway?
Yeah, some
Leo's
days.
not even
Leo,
that
by the
dumb.
way.
Good. Fucking little punk. Well, he's talking absolute fucking waffle. So, look, why is it a full-time company? You tell me. What's the third option?
What are you saying? Can you slow
Ghosts.
down a little bit?
Ghosts could do it. We
Ghosts
can
could
live in a
do it.
simulation. We can live
So
in
it
a
was rather
simulation.
created. So that still
Everything
falls
can
under
be
it being
digital.
created. That still falls under the umbrella. Hold on, falls under the umbrella. It's been created or it created itself. It's only two options. Give me a third
Got a
option.
lollipop in your mouth, dude. What are you doing?
Give me a third option.
It spontaneously erupted.
To create
No
itself.
creation involved. It just basically
Yeah, it
came
created
out of
itself.
nothing.
That comes under create itself.
No, it doesn't. Because creation,
Yeah, it does.
creation,
Yeah, it does.
creation,
Yeah,
Brummy.
yeah,
Let me
it
just
does.
educate you slightly.
Definitions.
Creation, Brummy, requires intent. So show me where the intent of the
It
matter
created
is, please.
itself.
So where's
or
the
it was
intent?
created.
It's not a
So where's the intent?
How would it have
Created
to? How would
itself.
it create itself
Randomly
without
created
intent?
itself.
No.
Or it was
Things
created.
can't create
Simple as that.
themselves
Yes.
because
Don't be awkward.
creation-
Don't be pedantic. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Guys, one at a time. One at a time. Brummy, you can't overtalk when he's answering you.
He's being
Brummy, Can I ask
denotative.
you a question? Can I ask you a question?
I just want to make the point. Creation
Okay.
requires intent. Without intent, you don't have creation.
Yeah,
Okay?
whatever. You're talking out your ass, mate.
Anyone else think I'm talking out my ass?
Yeah. No,
No,
I'm telling
it
you.
makes
Don't care what
perfect
anyone else
sense.
thinks. Don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm telling
It
you,
has to
right?
have the forward
Only
thought to want
it could
to
be.
do
Hold
it
on.
in
It
order
only
to
could be
have done
created,
it like
or
that.
it could create itself. The only way this
I
world
am
is here today.
sorry that you cannot say what you mean, therefore you don't mean what you say. I'm sorry you have that
No,
problem.
you want to be a pedantic prick. Then
No,
you
I'm
can be a
being
pedantic prick.
concise and precise.
No, you're not being
Showing
concise. You're
why
being
your
pedantic.
dichotomy
You know
is
what I mean
false.
by it. So if it wasn't created, then it obviously
one
created
reason
itself.
why.
It's as simple as that. There's only two options. Prove me wrong. Change my mind.
Brummy,
Man,
if there's a
I'm telling
flower
you.
somewhere, did it create itself?
Crazy how
Sorry?
stamina.
Nature. If you see a flower somewhere, was it created by nature or did it create itself?
It's rather God give the ingredients to create itself, or it created itself. There's only two ways.
No,
It
but-
rather created,
no, but it was-
rather God created it, or it created itself. There's only two
Given the
options.
third option, this is all an illusion.
There is no
None of
third
it's
option.
real.
There is no
Yes, there is.
possible way that there could be a third
Get my
option.
point
There is
out
not
when you
possible.
listen and respond to it rather than overtalk me. This is all an illusion. None of it's real. Third option.
No, it's all an illusion. None of it's real. Well, that's just you being deluded because it's clearly real.
No. How
Is
do you
it?
know that? You can't prove reality.
How do I know that? Because I'm talking to two real idiots right now.
Are you?
Yeah,
Are you though?
100%. Yeah, I am.
But
What's
are
my
you?
independent variable?
I
Two
don't
fucking
think
idiots
you're
on the
smart
internet.
enough
They're
to be
my
an idiot.
independent variables.
Are we
My
not
fucking
just
dependent
electrical
variables. My
signals?
independent variables are confirmed
Are we not
and
just
fucking.
electrical signals reaching your brain?
No, you're spastics on
At
the
the end
internet.
of the day, are we not just
No,
electrical
you
signals
spastics on the
entering
internet.
your brain?
Evidently spastics.
No, you realize that though. I know you
No,
do
I
on
don't
a-
realize
on-
nothing.
On a deep level, you do know that.
The deepest level you can go, you rather or created or
The
you create
deepest
or
level that
matter
you can
created
go,
itself.
if you
There is
stop the
no two.
electrical
There's not a
signals
third
to your
option.
brain,
There is not a
you're
third
not going to be
option.
receiving
There is
any of
no
this
third option.
information.
Hey,
We're
Bromy.
having a
Even when you touch
conversation.
something, you
The
Bromy.
touch,
fact
you
we're having this
feel
conversation is
everything you
evidence.
feel and touch.
It's empirical
No, it's really
evidence. You're
not.
talking to empirical evidence right now.
It's
Hey,
not.
Bromy, to
You're
answer your
talking to
question.
empirical evidence. You can't put doubt in my mind. You can't doubt the fuck. You
You don't know
cannot
if
doubt
I'm
me.
AI or not.
Hey,
I
Bromy.
know you're a spastic. I know you're a spastic.
You don't know if I'm
I
AI
know
or
you're
not.
mentally
I'm
challenged.
sorry I called you a cockney wanker. Let's get this
Bromy.
conversation back on track and speak about reasons and evidence and
But yeah,
all that.
philosophically, look
But
up the what is it called? The brain in a jar, brain in a vat, or something.
Bromy.
Argument.
Here's a. Hey, Bromy. Here's a sixth option to your question: a combination of something being created by something else and it being created by itself.
Ooh.
well, we can talk about this stuff, but we
Hermaphrodite.
need.
That's
Well, we need to
but
talk.
it's still con-
You're talking about
Look,
hermaphrodites?
if I can get to talk, then I won't have to shout over everybody, will I?
Oh
But
my
the bottom
God.
line is.
Get your fix.
Oh, thank you. We're talking to this guy again. The bottom line is right that rather it was created,
Your dad.
or it wasn't created and it randomly combusted into some shit and it all created itself.
Or it's all an illusion.
Why do you
No,
call it a creation?
it's not an illusion. I'm not a fucking spastic. I know it's not because I'm not dumb. I know because I'm talking to you now.
Yeah, but that can be an illusion.
No, it's not
But
an
the
illusion.
thing is-
I know it's not an illusion.
But the
I know
thing
it's not.
is, we need to
You
talk
think you know
about
it's not.
intelligible paths of thought. When you go back to things in reality, something created this thing, which created this thing, which created this thing, all the way back to potentially an infinite regression, unless you talk about a creator of some sort that is possibly created. Because being cannot come from non-being. There needs to be a being that gave rise to these other beings, like God. Only options at that point to create something for something to create something is a personal God or an infinite pantheism. Those are the only logical, intelligible options that we can explore with intelligence and thinking. The rest of this stuff is unbased supposition with no logic or paradigm to give any intelligibility. Those are the only two
I
options.
disagree. I disagree. The only option is
real
that
simple
God
to
created
show
it. There
an
is no.
abiotic
There ain't
genesis.
even two options. There ain't even two. The only logical option is that it was created. Anything else is absurd, in denial, fucking doubting yourself, fucking stupid, fucking delusional crap. That's it.
I agree.
There's only one fucking option that was created. That's
No, yeah,
it.
you see
There's
highly
nothing
structured
else.
protein
It's
structures,
absolutely
amino
factual.
And I
acids,
hate to
and
say it, but
happens.
I'd hate to say it, and I love my atheist brothers and sisters to death, but they are dissolving and devolving into materialist pantheism. That is the only way to square their unthinkable options where they leave a question mark and the brain hungers for truth and cannot deal with that question mark, so it just makes a circular logic
right.
where
So
matter
instead, we
creates
just fill in the void with some bullshit, right? And then we're happy. Get out of here with that.
But
You're
you
like,
don't have
you're
an
like,
intelligible,
just fill it in
explorable
with some
option.
bullshit. Neither do you, and you just filled it with God.
Yeah, that's
But we
And then-
have a
now you're
revelation through
happy
the
and
Bible.
satisfied and running around virtue signaling about what you've done that's so successful over what
But
anyone
we
else has
have
done.
a God
But
who
you still don't
reveals
know shit
himself in the
either.
Bible.
Yeah,
You
but
have
that's-
nothing that can't
we
even
wrote
reveal
the Bible
itself.
so you would feel good. Calm down and stop being freaked out about the fucking
Even
asteroids.
if you
and
want to know
comets
the
going over
truth,
your head.
you have no way to know it because
Relax.
philosophy doesn't
Our God
allow for the
will
truth to be
protect
knowable.
you from all of that.
Lemon, how do you know that God is true? How do you know that there is an absolute truth?
Based off of that secular logical syllogism that Parmenides gave years ago that I just gave to you, being cannot come from non-being. If you're saying that being can come from non-being, that makes it even harder to tell the solution to the question.
Well, that's a
so
guy
if you're saying
who
that
never
being can
studied
bring forth being.
abiotic genesis.
But you didn't answer
There's a
my
guy
question.
right there who hasn't studied the abiotic genesis or
Nothing to
origins
study. It's a
of
philosophical
life.
assumption.
I think
If
it was
nothing can come from
right,
something
because
and something can come from nothing,
a lot,
we have chaos. We have no knowledge.
right,
It can just pop into being.
That's a dichotomy, though. We're not saying nothing came from nothing, right? In that statement, abiotic genesis isn't nothing from nothing. It's life from matter through electrolysis and different, mediations of the same pressure mediations and shit. It's saying that abiotic genesis is like when
No,
you
God
see
can't
when we
be
went to
real.
Comet
God can't be real because I can't
67P,
talk my bullshit.
why are you talking over me and acting like a little moron?
I do
Childish bitch.
apologize. I do apologize. I should be talking over you. Go on, finish it and I'll have a go.
Right. So from the samples from Comet 67B, they're showing that there's like proteins and highly structured, hydrocarbons and amino acids and glycols and shit like that being produced just from the electro recombination of gases and plasmas to form those elements on the surface of that comet. So they're seeing that that's a very feasible way for the process of hydrocarbons and stuff, skipping the idea that it needed to be directly from plant life and giving the idea to the abiotic genesis of oil and stuff itself. But that process being explored.
Oh my God. Are you finished yet?
Almost. That process being explored more, readily or something in the future might be able to show an abiotic genesis of life itself. So there is a track or field of research moving on
No
that
way.
edge right now. That's right.
But you just talked absolute waffle for 5 minutes.
No,
right?
I didn't.
Bottom line is,
You sound like you're eating a waffle.
Bottom line, it's not.
And then you come in
Bottom
bitching
line,
about
bottom
somebody else
line.
waffling, but you have waffles.
Bottom line, hold on, hold on, hold on,
Like, all you
Lemon Bird,
talk
hold on,
about is
Lemon Bird.
waffles.
I've been waiting for that waffle to end, just so I can just say something simple. There is only two logical options. There's not even there's only one.
Yeah, we already heard
logical
that.
option.
You're just repeating yourself.
But the fact of the matter is, you're trying to say that this random fucking shit all happened by random spontaneousness.
No,
yeah.
electromagnetic.
Hold on,
random.
no one
It's not
else
like
talking to you.
bouncing around.
Can you stop interrupting me now? Can you stop interrupting me?
Well, stop.
Or the fact is, it has to be unequivocally the only thing that could have made what we have today is by intelligent design. We have evidence in the DNA code. We have evidence in the order of the universe. We have evidence all around us, and the only people that are in denial saying, "Oh, it could be just a dream world. God could just be fucking thinking it. That's what we really know."
Has
I don't really know this real. I don't really know this real.
You do need a too, and it would seem divine or intelligent to a person who doesn't understand.
Cream, can you stop talking? Can you just shut up, Cream? Cream, can you shut up now? You've been whopping on for like last 10 minutes over my conversation.
You don't
understand. You don't shut up ever, Grim. You don't ever shut up.
Neither do you.
Just put a sock in your fucking stupid mouth.
Do you see your twin?
You're fucking
you're
making me lose brain cells. You're making me lose brain cells. You're that thick.
There's no way
when you talk,
that this is
I feel like I'm being more fucking
decrepit
and retarded every single second.
Fucking ignorant shit. Constantly.
What was you talking about? The oil something of the fucking universe. Oil of the universe.
To show me that you're really stupid, don't even know what I'm talking about. I said the abiotic genesis of oil. Abiotic.
The abiotic genesis of oil?
Yeah, look it up. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, but oil isn't living. That's the thing. Oil is a non-living compound. And so you'd still need a creator, Grim, to control the process and set the process on a different course. Whenever you see
compound, right? Okay, dude. Non-living compound, very complex though, very complex hydrocarbons. And then I also named other things other than just oil, as I named glycols and
just
proteins.
Fucking put a sock in it. Let someone else talk.
Excuse me, you shut the fuck up, dude.
You've been talking for 10 minutes straight. Let someone else talk.
Glycols, these are amino acids.
These glycols
are organic and are found in living organisms. So the process.
My name's Graham. I talk about the electric universe. I don't say anything. I just talk and talk and talk.
It's not electric universe, you fucking moron. This is
really talking about the way without God, since we're getting all of these precursors. But just because we're getting these precursors doesn't mean you're getting a living organism.
God, you're just assuming that. All right.
Let's
God
cut to the chase. Rummy is right. Let's just cut to the chase.
Wait a minute.
You're have an atheistic formulation.
No, you're fucking cutting me off. You're being a dick, dude.
I'm cutting the chase.
What the fuck
You're
is wrong with you right now? No, you sit there and you bitch about being interrupted, and all you do is interrupt people.
Grim,
God could have put it there. Now the fact of the matter is that
you hear
it's
me,
there.
Grim? Is my mic not working? One sec. You've been
No,
going
why are
on
you
for a
saying
very
my
long
name
time.
over and over again?
Yeah.
I'm being interrupted by everyone now.
Yeah, but
what are you doing?
You're being interrupted because you make multiple points that dovetail into each other and you don't let go of the mic. The only reason why people are interrupting.
One point without. Go on. I'll tell you what.
Right. I've been going for a very long time, and then he asked me another question, and then so I'm now answering that, and then I'm being straw man. So then I'm having to, have an
Then
exchange
pick
because of
one,
that.
make a
And
point,
now you're
shut
gonna
up, and let
complain
go of the
because
mic.
I'm
Thank you.
fucking
Love you to death.
talking.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you, bro. You shut up and let go of the mic. You're acting
And
like
you
the
don't
mic is
always
some
have
sort
to
of a
have the
thing that
last
you
word.
need.
Oh my
Sometimes
God,
just
bro.
shut up and let go of the mic.
All right.
Thank
It's all
you.
right. Let's move it on, please. Just try and finish the point as concisely as
Fucking
you
jealous
can,
ass
Grim,
nigga.
please.
Grim just can't stop
I
talking.
don't even want to talk
Just
anymore.
let him finish it. Or have you finished, Grim?
Grim's
He
never
doesn't
finished.
want to talk unless he can do one of his illustrious lectures. He needs to make it short and to the point with 1 point, let go of the mic in a room of 20 people. Love you to death. Let go of the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I can see
My
there's
name's
some
Grim.
sort
I
of
need
a
oh yeah,
struggle
Grim.
going on. It's not about the conversation. It's some other fucking struggle in
It's
here.
you.
You go ahead.
Just make your point. Finish
I'm
it like
not
Jem
part of your
said, and shut
struggle,
up.
dude. I don't give a fuck that much.
Well, then
Really.
shut
You're
up
gonna be
then. Shut up.
disrespectful. I will
Jem, give you the
sock you right in
floor.
the fucking
Jem's
mouth,
give you the
dude.
floor. Finish your content and just fucking shut up for 10 seconds.
Seriously though. You talk to people like you don't fucking
Because you don't
like you're
shut up,
fucking
Grim.
bullying.
You're annoying
You're
to listen to.
bullying. You're
And you
acting
just
like you're a
jabber on about
badass, bro. I
fucking
would beat the
speculation.
shit out of you in real life. Why would you talk
No,
like
you
that
wouldn't, bro. I
online?
would literally,
Oh, the fuck I
take you
wouldn't,
apart.
dude.
I
I would
would
beat the
actually
shit
rape
out of
you.
you.
I would do stuff to you
Dude,
and you
I
wouldn't
would
like
choke
it.
you with my
I would
dick,
take
you
you
little
apart,
faggot.
bro. I'd pin you down, right, and I'd rupture your anal
You're out of
cavity.
your fucking mind, dude.
You've been listening
I
too
would
much
break your
Nathan,
fucking
Brummy.
skull.
You're a quality Christian.
You don't know
there.
who the fuck you're talking to, you piece of shit.
I'll leave you emotionally and
You
mentally
have no
scarred, bro.
fucking clue who you're talking
Emotionally
to,
and mentally,
dude.
you'll be emotional mental wreck after a night
Dude,
with
I
me.
would crack your fucking dome, man. You think your dome exists?
I'd
I would
leave,
crack that
I'd leave the
motherfucker and
insides
show
of
it
your
to you.
dome cracked.
I'll show
You'll
you
be
the
broken with
inside of your
me.
dome, bitch.
You won't be able to look yourself in the
You
mirror
have no
again.
idea.
After
You really
me, you'll
do.
be fucked
You're
mentally.
talking to me like that. You're talking to me
You
like you're
wouldn't know
saying
where
all
you
of
are.
that
You'd be
shit
like, what have I
constantly.
just
With
done?
the shut
Why
the
did I
fuck
do
up,
this to
motherfucker.
myself?
Do this and
All
that.
right,
met the
all
wrong
right.
guy.
Let's
Talking
get it
at me
back
like
on
I
track.
wouldn't crack your
Let's try
fucking
and
shit wide open.
make a point. Somebody, please.
Brumi, I'm gonna make a point. There's a third option. Energy has existed always because it can't be created nor destroyed.
Okay, but the energy that's always existed, that still eventually collapsed on itself and created the world. So it still falls under the umbrella that it created itself. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
Create itself.
It always existed to create itself.
Sorry, we're
The
just
universe
talking
we
about
had today.
evidence.
No, stop talking, Grim. Your time's
No,
over.
fuck you, dude.
Your time's over. Grim, your time's over.
My time starts when the
Your
fuck I'm ready
time's
to
over,
talk,
Grim.
dude.
Your time's over.
Brumi, the creator
Bro,
created itself.
look, let's say it was created already, yeah? Even let's just for speculation, it was already created, yeah? It was already there, which is illogical anyway. But let's go from that point. The fact that the universe has got like a good order to it and it's all collapsing on itself and create these from the Big Bang, then that automatically means that it was all, even though the material was always there, it eventually created itself with no intervention. So that's still it created itself. There's only two options, bro. No matter how you look at it.
Yeah, well, I guess by that definition, you can say that it created itself because it's already existed.
Well, that's my point. It created itself, or it had divine intervention. That's my point. Yeah, there's only two options.
Yeah, but it didn't create itself. It already existed. So
Even it already existed. It created the universe that we live today. Because obviously, at one point, it was an infinitesimal point, wasn't it? It was a singularity.
yeah.
So whatever it was before, that always existed and always will exist, right? So therefore, that created itself. The universe we have today, the order and the solar system and all the waters and oceans, that all created itself from the materials that were always there. So by definition, there's only two choices.
Brommy, how do you mesh that draconian requirements with that you just said that it created itself with divine intervention?
No, what? Sorry again.
How do you match with the draconian requirements you set forth the concept of what you just stated, which was it created itself with divine intervention?
No, what I'm saying is divine intervention means there was a creator, yeah, which we see a lot of evidence for. So regardless of, no one's asking. I'm trying to finish my sentence for once. It's rather been created or it was created. It created itself. There's no two ways about it. And the only one that makes sense logically is that there was a divine intervention to have what we have today. I'm only objectifying the reality we live in. Who created the creator is a relevant question. It's a non sequitur. if somebody created the God, that's untangible. We can barely understand the universe we live in now. So would I even dare to start thinking about what created the creator? It's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is the reality that we live in now has been created undoubtedly. It's the only logical inference. If I said to you, billions and billions of years of grenades going off on a sandy beach, would ever in a billions and billions of options, would there be a sophisticated sandcastle being built out of the explosions of grenades on a beach?
You understand that you didn't
realize
answer
you're
the question at all?
oversimplifying the way matter works, right? You're oversimplifying it. You're leaving out the electromagnetic rules that actually exist. Well, you are, and you're leaving that out. Those have structure, and they seem like a divine structure.
You're in doubt. You sorry, you lost soul, and you're in doubt.
Right.
It's oversimplifying it for stupid fuckers like you.
Dude.
It's for
You're
you.
really
That's what they fuck with. I oversimplified it for your simple brain. I simplified it for your simple mind.
Yeah, I think I'm being reasonable here, and you're just being
because you're going to go on and on and on and on and on again. That's why. I already know where you're going with it. You can be reasonable as you like.
Sounds like it's you going on and on, dude. Really.
Because I know what you're going to do.
Another fucking argument about it. What I just said was it was a valid point.
Okay.
Right? You're oversimplifying the way matter works and what electromagnetic fields can do. You're acting like those don't exist and they weren't a part of the structuring of the entire universe. Which clearly we can now, as we're in the space age, see that the data shows that absolutely electromagnetism has a large role in the way that galaxies so far are structured, and even maybe why we see a cosmic web.
You're overcomplicating it, yeah? Really? You're just trying to make it sound
I'm
complicated
just showing
when it's
data
not.
that we actually have existing.
No, what you do is you talk. You're still talking. You'd love to talk when I talk. The fact of the matter is, you're overcomplicating.
Please.
You're overcomplicating something that doesn't need to be complicated. It's simple as that, right? It's just simple. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Obviously, I can go into the actual intricacies and sit there and reel off big fucking words and play with myself at the same time. It doesn't mean that they're any different from the actual story that it is. No, it's not waffling. I'm trying to tell you that you're overcomplicating it to make it sound like it's not fucking real. Oh, you're not overcomplicating
it. What I'm trying to say, and you're carrying on and gish galloping
so
that I can't respond to you about the same fucking stupid point you're trying to make. Right. So you're absolutely oversimplifying it. When you want to prove a thing, you show data to support that thing. Now, I could easily say electromagnetism, or even I could have said Steve Wolfram's like cellular automaton, but you wouldn't know what that stuff was. I could have simply laid down my argument with those three words. You wouldn't have known what that meant, and we would still be sitting here acting like you still have a point, but you don't. So if you look up the cellular automaton, that's the model Steve Wolfram's working from or showed, that you add some simple rules to a program that when particular things get near other particular things, they act in a particular way. And if you set those rules, like in electromagnetic whatever science is, physics, right? When you set
science
those
is physics,
rules,
right?
And matter can start to behave in a way that seems like even divine, organic.
Oh, my head,
in a
my
sense,
brain's melting.
undeterminable. Right, but this is what seems to happen, and this happens with those simple rules that already exist that you might call divine.
Oh,
because you can't see, you're oversimplified by creating a dichotomy. It either created itself or blah 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 out of some divine. But what if creating itself might seem divine to you?
Let me know when you finish. All right, let me know when you finish.
They get complicated.
Okay, good point.
Bird's eye potato waffle. That's all that was, and you didn't explain it. You couldn't explain anything simply. The reason you can't explain. Hold on. Don't. It's not your time to talk, Dawn. Grim, it's not your time to talk.
First of all,
Grim, it's not your time to talk.
First of all, did I insult you? Did I insult you?
Grim,
first of all,
it's not your time to talk. Grim,
yeah, but did I insult you?
Grim,
you don't sit there and fucking insult somebody who clearly did not even insult you. I spoke only about the fucking topic at hand.
Yeah,
Someone
Brian,
try moderator mute, please. Can we have a mod to mute Grim, please?
Yeah, try to be a little more respectful, then, dude.
Can we have a mute on Grim, please?
We ought to mute you.
Can we have a mute on Grim, please?
Can we have a mute on Grim, please? Over and over again.
Can we have a mute on Grim, please? You literally cannot shut up.
Grim's a good person, but he does like to get the last word. So please, let's not antagonize each other, please.
Bottom line is, Can you mute him then, or what? Because he's not going to allow me to talk. The bottom line
While a
is,
local mute on Grim would be understandable, eventually he would probably be quiet more than.
At the end of the day, right? He's trying to go on like he knows all these complicated stuff, but like Einstein said, one of the greatest
Not even
quotes.
that complicated.
There we go. If you
Go ahead,
cannot
cry
explain
about it
something
real
simply,
loud.
there we go again.
Cry
Can we
about
get
it
him muted
really
or what? Can we get him
loud.
muted? Can we get him muted?
You're not getting him muted.
Can you mute him, Lemonberg? Can you mute him, please?
Want to mute him or anything, or we're on our own? Okay, just locally mute him and keep going.
You're both
Alright.
on your own.
No, I'm not. I don't need to local mute. You need to mute him and do your moderation because you know this guy's being the problem in this conversation. It won't move forward
You're
until
being
he's
hypersensitive, dude.
Any mods doing their job? No, we're on our own. Locally mute him and please continue.
All right, then. I'll just make him. All right, then. So Grim, for example, he can't allow to listen to anyone else's point. This is why he remains an ignorant piece of shit. The bottom line is that if you can't understand something simply enough, then you can't. If you don't understand it well enough, then you can't explain it simply. That's the truth of the matter. So I'm sitting there and reading off words and going, "Oh, you don't know what these means." So then you try to explain it, and you still can't explain what you actually mean yourself. It just goes to show that you're actually talking out your ass. I could say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious,
just because you're
but then if I can't explain supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, it doesn't mean fuck all that you know the name of something.
I got what he was saying, Bram. I got what he was saying, Brummy. He was saying that these precursors are being made, so they're opening up the door for it to make itself, basically. One sentence, that's it.
There you
That's
go.
why I
No, you
was
wouldn't-
saying, yeah.
To
say
sum
it
up what
again
I
then.
was saying,
Explain it
he
again,
wouldn't have understood
Lemon.
what
I
I
would like
meant
to hear your
that
explanation,
simply.
not his.
Lemon, that he wouldn't have understand what that meant.
He's still
I had to
talking.
explain to him.
Well,
Of course, you can't just be-
Well,
you can't just
remember,
always
explain
talk.
it again. What? Say it again. I was talking to hear what you said because it doesn't
He's
make
saying
sense when
it
you don't.
can make itself because we're seeing all these precursors to life kind of, pop up in places. Comets.
Yeah, and what I said was electromagnetic rules can make it look more divine and complex. How's that so much longer? You just didn't understand it. And then I had to ask.
You don't explain yourself well. You just
complaining very long time.
You just bash some words
how
together.
does that? Really,
It
I
makes
said
no
those words
sense.
and
I
you
don't-
just didn't understand them.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
you're shit at explaining yourself. You shit.
Sorry.
So how
That
the
was
fuck?
just a rundown.
How the fuck does that equate
Sorry
to?
about how you don't
How
understand
the
what I'm
fuck
talking
does that
about.
equate to it not making it?
I thought it was fairly simple.
How the fuck does that equate to not making itself? How does
What's
that even
simple to
fit in
some
with what I'm
people
saying?
isn't so simple to others. I get that.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
But
So
I
how does
actually
that
thought it was
equate?
simple
How does
enough.
that equate to not making itself?
How's he asking me a question
not
and when
fitting
I start
itself.
answering it, he keeps
How
asking
does
me the
that?
same
How
fucking
does what you
question?
said equate
So you're
to what I
answering.
said?
Okay, here you go. Silence. I'm gonna interject. The thing is, okay, go ahead.
I'm waiting for him to say it. How does it relate to what I said? How does it contradict what I said? Where's
Why
the
does it have to
contradiction?
contradict?
Because you're fucking talking back to me, disagreeing that it's rather
I'm
great in
gonna-
itself what was created, and then you just said a bunch of words and going, what, how the fuck, what's the problem then? Explain how
Basically,
that
what you
contradicts what I
said
said.
kind of
Because
reduced
actually,
to creating
there's
itself grim.
Two things wrong with
Exactly.
Two things wrong with it.
So it's the same shit.
One
Doesn't
is you're
contradict
saying it
nothing I
has
said.
intent.
Just bullshit
Excuse
words.
me, man. No,
Okay, he
here's-
said two things. One
is
involves
you're saying
intent.
It has intent. That's creating itself. And the other is that it must be divine. And I'm saying, well, neither one exists or can happen. Or neither one have to be happening. That it could be that through these rules of electromagnetics and matter itself, how it interacts.
Where the rules come from?
This could seem.
Where the rules come from?
Thanks for interrupting me.
Where's
but
the rules come from?
They don't have to come from anywhere. They can just be
They just come from the south, yeah?
Be.
So come from the south.
That's all we
Rummy,
know.
don't touch it.
Do we have to assume to know where these things come from to feel comfortable and sleep well at night?
Sorry,
or can
Jim.
we not lie to ourselves and still say we don't know and be honest with ourselves? Do we have to attribute it to some sort of a blankie and comfort blankie? And say
we have a
God,
philosophical
so that
problem,
we live
though.
forever, eternally, and don't feel like we're alone in the world. If that makes you feel better, you need that, then you can have.
But we have a philosophical problem
use
here,
that in
Grim.
physics.
Okay, we have a philosophical problem here, Grim, because what you're saying implies that the creation establishes its own rules and goes by its own rules. Why should it feel the need to do that if the creation can just make itself into new rules at all? There would eventually be no rules, and the universe would just, change metamorphically into anything that you need. That's unintelligible.
Well, you're kind of calling them rules when it's just the way matter behaves with other matter.
Oh, it's just the way it is. Things will
Well, it
never be the
is.
same. Just the
You're
way
trying
it is.
to apply human philosophy, or the fact that we live linearly, to the idea of living literally linearly. Again, when it could be that nothing ever was destroyed or is being created, that it's all just interacting and exchanging with each other, and it always existed statically forever. It could be that.
So
and that
let's deal with the base questions. Let's deal with the base questions, Grim. Can something create something? Can nothing create something? Or do you need something to create something?
Well,
does something need to be in place for something else to be?
Do we assume we know what creation means?
Big up, live free from Lincoln. You get that there, guys.
Okay, so
Because
you
can
answer a
something
question with
come
a question. When I
Right,
get a
because
question
if
with a
some-
question,
if
unless that
everything
question
is
helps
just
me answer the
conversion-
question, I'm going to say that the question is unanswered.
If everything is just conversion, and we don't know if anything was created or not, and we don't know if there's any divine person or whatever, or mental thing saying this is what should be done. You
So
don't
the thing
assume
is,
to know.
Grim, we have a problem with the philosophy because now we're getting into unintelligibility. Even if what you said is true, there's no way to intelligibly explore it or know it.
Yeah,
which
same with your
sucks
God. You
bad
have to apply
because
that
there
to
can be a
yourself,
whole lot
too.
of lies in what we don't know and a whole lot of truths in what we don't know just as easily.
We
The
know
reason
that,
for
though.
is, we all know, the police have got my camera and my equipment and things like that. I'm getting new equipment, guys.
Someone said the music in the background. I think it's Gem Panda. Gem Panda's hot mic.
It's a hot mic, Jim. Hot
Somebody
mic.
getting arrested?
Quite a while.
It's all about that guy and the video. So, Grim, what you've just said is basically all the rules were created themselves. So you're still talking shit. Like, I'm sorry
Well,
to
you're
make it
saying your
simple
God
for you to
created
understand.
himself, so
Don't
you're
talk
sort of
over
talking
me.
shit,
Don't talk
too.
over me, bro. Bro,
But
don't talk over me.
Then don't attack
Bro,
at me. Don't say you're talking shit.
Bro. You're not
Because that's
making
an
sense.
antagonistic move, dude.
Bruh.
You ask for it.
Bruh.
Brah.
Come on,
You
guys.
asked for
Come
it.
on. I think you guys are similar in that you
Look,
both like
you're
to
being
get the last
antagonistic,
word.
then you're going to get slapped in the face. That's the way it works
Let's
with me.
not be antagonistic,
You're
though, Brummy.
antagonized, you
But
get
let's not
smacked.
be.
I'd
Let's not be
snap
like
your
that. Let's
fucking
be
arm off,
You want to
respectful.
act like you're
I'll munch
fucking.
your
You want
fucking
to act
whole
like
arm
you're
off,
virtue
mate.
signaling, like you're not
I'll
starting
put
it,
my
but
knee
we
on
know
your
you're
head,
starting it.
right? I'll put my balls in your mouth,
You wouldn't
bro.
do shit, dude.
Oh,
I'll put my balls in your
guys,
mouth.
please.
You don't have balls.
What
No, no.
point were we on? Let's get back
Right.
to that.
He won't shut up. Every time I talk, he has to talk. It's like when I talk, he has to speak. I've muted my mic, listen to
You
all his crap.
literally
Now I'm
address
saying
me. You say
here
my
we go.
fucking name, and then you
Right.
tell me some shit like I'm talking shit, and
All
then
right,
you get mad
guys.
because I
All right, let's
respond.
not
So go
do
fuck
more
yourself.
of this, please. Let's not keep doing this.
Grim, are you one of those
Bitch.
electric universe? Grim, are you one of those electric universe people?
Yes, I'm
You guys
absolutely
have.
one of them.
I've heard you guys have some good math to replace gravity. Is that true or?
Well, no, it's
Grim's got nothing.
It's in the Principia Scientifica.
Principia.
Latin.
See, this is what I'm talking about right here.
And now we're back.
I would
to
knock
this
you the
again.
fuck out, dude.
Yeah, let's not mock each other. It's Latin. Let's keep going. It's just Latin.
Right. It's a fucking journal. You can see one of the a non-proponent of the electric universe went over Wal Thornhill's electric gravity proposal and saw that there actually was math to support what he was saying on a hydrogen atom. So there's that, dude. But that's all I know about how much math there is on that or not.
Because on Randy's, I heard there was some guy was talking about it, and he said there was some good math, but they were using plasma equations instead of some kind of gas equations or something. I forget what it was. It's over my head.
Yeah, but bro,
Well, look. You just said that the laws make themselves. It is what it is. You don't know anything, so it all came from nothing. It all came from like an unknown. It all created itself.
still talking.
So no need for you to talk right now. No need for you to talk right now. Just sit down, listen, and you've got plenty of time to respond after I'm finished talking.
Just keep going. He stopped.
So the bottom line really comes down to the laws all made themselves. All the matter formed and went into its own random formation, which created the world itself. It still falls under that umbrella, and therefore it ultimately is broken down into two possible scenarios: it created itself, or it was created. And anything other than being created is just an illogical inference.
Yeah,
it just could not.
That's that's a true dichotomy right there. It's either creator or nature did it itself. They like to say it's not. It's a false dichotomy, and there's a third option, but I've yet to hear an intelligible third option.
Third option has always existed.
That's
Yeah,
not
it's
a
false dichotomy because the nature doesn't have
That
an intent.
still goes under the umbrella. Sorry,
There's
sorry,
no
mate.
intent with nature.
There's still an umbrella. It still comes under the umbrella. All right, it still comes under the umbrella of it creating itself, regardless if it's always been there or not.
No,
It
because
still
there's
comes
no
under that
intent.
umbrella. Sorry, it
No.
does. Sorry, it does.
No, it doesn't, because creation means intent, and nature doesn't have any intention.
If it was
There's no
always
intent.
there, there's no need for it to be created. It was always there.
Yep.
Right. So if it was always there, and eventually, at one point, it started to create itself and started to create all these laws and natures, and it all. Well, you create. Listen, bro. If you've got the ingredients to a cake on the side, and always existed these ingredients to the cake, and then eventually it made a cake, then it made itself. If it had no divine intervention. No, don't talk while I'm talking, bro. I'm trying to explain to you.
You've said it. You've made the point, Brummy, and I just don't. How can that possibly be true? How can something that has always existed have a point where it started existing? That the whole point is
that's not my claim. That's his claim.
But you're saying something that has been there forever had a point of creation.
No, he's saying something that's always been there could have just been there without any inference of creation.
Right.
So he's saying that's not what I'm saying.
But that's
that's what
no,
I'm saying.
exactly. You're saying the opposite to that, as I've just detailed twice, and that cannot be true. You're saying something that has always been there and never had no point at which it was created, because it's always been there, had a point at which it was created. That clearly that is not so.
That's what he's in. That's what I'm saying. It's in his inference. He's saying that. Always. Hold on, don't interrupt.
You don't need to mimic. Just say it in a normal
I don't need to be
voice.
interrupted either, Jem. I don't need to be interrupted either, though.
You had
You do
already
if you're
started
being
mimicking
moderated.
before you were
Because
interrupted.
how could I start mimicking what went for an interruption if I wasn't interrupted?
Because you talking like this.
No, I wasn't. I was
Yes,
talking
you
normal,
were.
and he
Quit
interrupted.
fucking lying. You've been lying.
Listen,
the whole time
bro.
you've been here, dude.
Listen. Why would I mimic somebody who didn't interrupt
Just
me?
make the point.
Thank you. Right. So that's what I was trying to do. So the point being is that he's saying to me that it always existed because it wasn't created. So I'm saying that's logically impossible. And just for argument's sake, let's imagine that it always did exist. Then you're saying at one point the Big Bang occurred and it all collapsed into itself.
No.
Just making. That's what he's done. No, yes.
No. That's
Yes.
not always existing, is it? That's
Thanks.
something beginning to exist.
Rumi, why don't you ask me?
Because
if you
that's
don't know
what
I meant?
the hold on, Jem. That's what they claim the Big Bang. They say before the Big Bang is an unknown. So they don't say it came from
Now
nothing.
you're
They say
talking
it came
about
from-
something else. You're talking about the Big Bang.
But that's what they're saying, though, is it? That's the world. That's your religion.
No, not mine,
We
dude.
were talking about
You were talking to me.
We were talking about a hypothetical universe, I believe, that had always existed, not
Yes.
the Big Bang.
Let's talk about from static.
Well, that's
universe.
impossible. Then it's impossible to have something that's always existed.
It's
It had to have a point.
unfathomable, but it isn't impossible.
How do you know?
Because you're saying it's all. I don't know. Because don't you say it's impossible?
I haven't said it's impossible.
Everything has to have had a start.
It's
Well,
unfathomable
you're saying
to
it's.
you.
You're saying.
I said it was
Rumi.
impossible for
Don't
something.
muddy the world. Don't muddy the
I
waters.
didn't. I said try and understand because it's not difficult. I said something that has always existed did not have a start. I didn't say everything's had a start.
What I'm saying, Jem, he's postulated that what if it always existed?
There he is again, mimic. What's up with that?
Yeah,
Mocking
because it's so dumb. I can't say dumb things without highlighting how dumb it is.
Rumi, you said
Well, we
God
also
always
come back
existed.
to this-
That's fucking dumb too, then, right?
We come back to the same exact problem also with a god, because you've got a fantastic being that has always existed.
If he only realized how he sounds like that already.
No,
to me
what I'm
before
saying
he
to you is,
mocks.
we need to objectify this reality we live in. Is the only reality that we have to deal with. Anything outside of this world has to be external to this world to have created this world. So to then comment on what created the God is irrelevant, because the fact of the matter is we're only trying to substantiate how this world we live in has come about. Now the only two options of it coming about is that it created itself, or it was created, and that is literally the constraints of the rules. And somebody else going, well, have it always existed?
Well, the thing is, we have to have an explorable framework to help us guide us toward truth. So if we can't intellectually work out a framework that can make the truth discoverable, we're not talking about anything. You're like saying we don't know about this God, which means that you're looking for an intelligible framework to know him.
Well, we keep on looking, and maybe we'll find God when we go look into Big Bang. But at this point, we don't have anything to indicate yay or nay, so we just continue on with we don't know.
We do have stuff to I've logically deducted it to myself to make say I just can't think of any other possible way that it makes any sense that this reality we live in could have had no divine intervention. If you look at the DNA code, you see code. You see that it's common things in design. So you see like a signature of the designer. You see, if you open up your eyes and if you don't really want to see the things that are there, then you will not see them, and you're intentionally trying not to see them because you feel like it's a
Right, don't tell me what I feel like.
I am not a religious person by a million miles. I'm not religious. I don't subscribe to any religion at all. I'm anti-religion, in fact, but the fact of the matter is, I can't deny the fact that this world is created.
No, you see that what you just did there is you said, I can't see how it could happen. I can't understand how it would happen. And I agree. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. But you have said you don't know. That does not open up the window for you to say that a magical, mythical being who is
Thank God.
Hello, is he cut out?
Oh, I must have fallen.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. I said to you, there's no logical way that it could have created itself. That's what I do know.
No, that's your logic.
But there's no possible way that it created itself. That's my point.
Don't know that.
It's not even it's not an option. It's literally not an option. It's just there's no possible way.
Argument,
no matter how many times
the argument isn't that it created itself. The argument is that it's infinite. That it's always existed.
But at the end of the day, right?
Only go to a God, though. So we're talking about an eternal pantheism yet again, or a transcendent eternal God.
That's
you
not
can't have a beginning.
He's not
you
equipped
can't
to
have
deal
an
with
infinite.
it. He cannot take that information on board and adjust to it.
No, you guys are trying to run from God.
Say what he already knows, and nothing's going to affect it.
Basically, the logic that we have on file. Well, the logic that we have on file is either something creates something or nothing can somehow create something. If you're saying in the intelligible framework